Part 126. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1252. The big black dog just ran away. Damn dog, didn't you say you were the best in the world? Why did you run away? Wu Date couldn't help but speak. Wow, human pet, what do you know? A good dog won't suffer the consequences in front of you, do you understand? Although they only have a 1 in 10,000 chance of defeating this emperor, there is still a risk. Never take action until everything is complete. This is the emperor's principle. The big black dog doesn't care at all and wants to escape. But, at this moment, a bald head suddenly appeared in front of the original law passage it constructed. The bald head was glowing with pitch-black light. He crossed his legs and looked kindly. He waved his hand lightly and hit the big black dog. Wow, old monk. The big black dog was startled and hurriedly resisted. At the same time, the old man riding the green bull from behind had also arrived, and the two hairskers worked together to break through the big black dog's hair visor channel. Suddenly, they were in trouble again. Is it true that this emperor has tentacles? Wang, you go first, I will stop them. The big black dog was also anxious and turned around, preparing for a fight. However, it soon realized that something was wrong. These two hairskers did not attack other people at all, but only beat it. Woof woof woof, are you coming for this emperor? The big black dog was suddenly confused. All kinds of magical powers exploded, and he fought with the inaction and the selfless, directly transcending reality and fighting into the secret. Nanfeng, Xuanhuan, etc. also appeared on the battlefield again, facing the many dark supremes that came out of the darkest realm. A lot of darkness, more and more, soon exceeding 100. Moreover, the number is still increasing. Now, each of them has to fight against more than a dozen people. They are all the strongest in the darkness, with great strength and great pressure. Even though Nanfeng and others are the best among the best, they are still in danger now, and some people have been injured. And soon, hundreds more supreme beings walked out of the darkest realm. Is this over? Wu Date cursed angrily. Something must have happened over there in the Black Sea of Nirvana, otherwise it wouldn't be so weird. Kill them all and find them. Rush. Xuanhuan and Duguyuking were shouting. However, there are too many supreme darkness appearing in the field now, and each of them is already extremely stressed. Soon, the number of dark supremes exceeded 500. The dark dome was collapsed, and darkness supreme fell, but Xuanhuan and others were also injured. Subakian went around trying to save people, but it was too late. My teacher is compassionate. But, at this moment, in the dark dome, a compassionate voice suddenly sounded. Suddenly, in the dark dome, a bald figure was everywhere. This bald man is different from the one who walked out of the Black Sea of Annihilation. He is very young. Junior brother Qing Chen has finally achieved enlightenment. This, selflessness. What a pervert. Duguyuking and others were all a little surprised. Qing Chen became a blockbuster and directly proved selflessness. His figure is all over the sky, appearing in the field anytime and anywhere, singing Zen chants to solve the crisis. Somebody come. Those without self are difficult to kill, those who are close to the law can deal with them. The supreme darkness is also roaring. At this moment, in the darkest realm that could not be seen, there seemed to be the sound of thousands of troops attacking, and the supreme sound was surging. How many people must be here? Hearing this voice, Wu Date's scalp went numb. No less than 10,000 people? Or even, 100,000. Lin Zhuchen was stunned. Such a big movement, damn, are all the corpses in the Black Sea of Annihilation resurrected? This is outrageous. Lu Rang was also exclaiming. The Supreme, like thousands of troops, almost rushed out of the dark territory. Nanfan and others had already seen the boundless shadow of the Supreme. It's like a tide, like a vast ocean. The ocean is coming, the tide is coming, and it can swallow everything. In front of this supreme tide, Nanfan and others, no matter how strong they are just like gravel. There are so many. Even a warlike person like Xuanhuan looked complicated. Kill. The supreme killing sound shook the sky. But, right now. Suddenly, the area at the scene seemed to have entered a twisted space. The hundreds of dark supremes who had walked out before disappeared in an instant. At the same time, above the dark sky territory, it was more like a god swiping his pen, and a terrifying waterfall flowed down from the sky and lay in front of the dark sky territory. The silver sky waterfall reflected brilliant light, like a big river, blocking thousands of troops in the darkest realm. It also illuminates the scene inside. Everyone looked up and saw that in the dark realm, the supreme darkness was one after another, densely packed and rubbing shoulders. They stared silently and coldly at everything in the dark dome. At this moment, they stopped for a moment, and were covered by the silver sky. The waterfall blocked it. In the supreme darkness, someone is driving the source of darkness to erode the silvery Milky Way. It's Sister Xiling. Nanfang spoke. Everyone suddenly came back to their senses. They were attracted by the countless supreme beings in the darkest realm, and for a moment they actually forgot about Xiling. Senior Sister Xiling took action, to kill hundreds of supreme beings. What great path did she prove? Duguyuking spoke in shock. It was said just now that there were 500 supreme beings, but they disappeared in an instant. This is so in line with Xiling's usual style. But, very amazing. Finally, in the dark dome, a girl dressed in purple finally appeared. She was holding a paintbrush and had a thin layer of sweat on her face. Come on, I didn't really kill those 500 supreme beings, I just imprisoned them in the painting. This painted avenue and waterfall can only block it for a while. Xiling spoke directly. Her supreme way was so unpredictable that in the blink of an eye, hundreds of supremes were trapped in prison. However, there were too many dark supremes, and it was difficult for her to truly kill them all at once, and blocking them to the dark realm was only a temporary measure. Walk. Immediately, they turned around and retreated. The silver sky waterfall was gradually melted by the dark origin energy. Countless armies of darkness marched into the dome of darkness. They chased in the direction of Nanfan and others. This is a big war, with bloodshed and killing all the way. The whole world was flooded. Nanfan, Xiling, Xuanhuan, Lurang, Duguyuking, Qing Chen, Zhongli, Wu Dade, Linjujhan, Subakian, Xining, Gongya, etc. were directly washed away. They dispersed and wandered around the world, fighting hard in different battlefields. Even reincarnation was affected. There was a powerful dark supreme being who attacked reincarnation. Black and white used their beginningless and endless methods to resist the enemies. But in the end, among the many dark supremes, many beginningless beings appeared. The endless one, even black and white, was bleeding and fighting hard, but he never took a step back and killed one dark supreme after another. The battle between the big black dog and the two masters of this law goes beyond the scope of the supreme. Even the supreme is difficult to see. It appears occasionally. The big black dog is often running away in panic, while the inaction and the selfless are both. Gradually, it made me jump with anger. Soon, 2,000 years passed. The war has not stopped. During this period, Nanfan, Xiling, and others suffered more than one murder. They had no chance to stop and were exhausted from fighting. Subakian took action and saved the brothers more than once. Tisk, that's interesting. On the embankment, for thousands of years, Tiao Dashan has been watching the war in the world with pleasure, like an outsider. Ao Wushuan was concentrating on running away with the whole world. In the past 1,000 years, he had been to the water curtain cave in Huiguo Mountain many times. After becoming the Silent One, he had the ability to be everywhere. He saw the little monkey and felt relieved. The entire world has been running towards the future time and space for 10 million years. They are tens of millions of years away from Li Fan's time and space. Occasionally, when I look back, I can see the unspeakable turbulent waves reflected in the long river of time thousands of years ago. It seems that there is a sword light shaking the sky, there seems to be a violent wave crashing on the case, and there seems to be a catastrophe that destroys everything. However, no one knows the truth of the war in those years. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Gui Xin. Chapter 1253. Time flies. Tabujas Hu, the 10,000th year. For 10,000 years, the war never stopped. There are too many supreme darkness coming out of the Black Sea of Annihilation. And, gradually, more hairskers appeared in the supreme darkness. Those who have obtained the original law of the dam are not only the inaction and the selfless, but their realm is higher, so they can directly achieve the law, but other dark supremes will take time to digest. The big black dog was beaten and killed 3 times, but it also gnawed away the bones of a dark and supreme body, earning a great reputation. On the way, even small mountain villages were not spared. There was a hair visor approaching the small mountain village, but there was a peerless beauty, dressed in white, who slaughtered a statue of hair visor in front of the village, causing a huge earthquake in darkness. For a moment, even no one of this law dares to enter the small mountain village rashly. At the same time, the real dragon and phoenix appeared, and the sky-swallowing ancient goose, the pathless demon spider, etc. also took action to join the battle. Doshu was the only one who never took action. After she massacred a master of hairsker, she remained in the small mountain village. The small mountain village has become the last harbor for everyone. Occasionally, when they are cornered, they will return to the small mountain village to take a breath, and then continue to set off to fight. During these turbulent years, Long Xuanhuan died for the 1000th time. On this day, his realm reached an unprecedented height, and he mastered the law of lawlessness. He killed hundreds of dark supreme beings in the Battle of Yuzhu, and became famous among the heroes. Nanfan Wuxian's way has been further improved. No one knows what her current way is, but she has personally counterattacked many times, killing to the edge of the dark territory, leaving corpses all along the way. Around Xiling, a group of dark supremes gradually gathered, and they became Xiling's slaves. Xiling appeared and disappeared. Hundreds of years ago, she led thousands of dark supremes around her to attack the Black Sea of Annihilation, but falling short of success. Lu Rang's grass is growing like crazy. In these years, many supreme beings have died, and those corpses have become the soil for him to grow grass. He has died hundreds of times, but he still unswervingly carries out the great cause of planting grass. Dugu Yuking's Wuji swordsmanship has gone beyond the scope of swords. He uses his body as a sword and the world as a sword. In a battle 30 years ago, hundreds of supreme beings who besieged him were all alienated by him. It became its own sword, and it slashed out the sword light all over the sky towards the dark dome that had long been entrenched by the supreme darkness, causing turmoil in the world. Qing Chen is even more mysterious. As a selfless person, few people can see him during this period. However, in several battles with the hairsker, he was seen staying next to the big black dog, and with that there is no self in this law. Zhang Li disappeared. Some people said that he had fallen and his blood was scattered in the sky. In the world, there are indeed broken turtle shells and his scattered power of the avenue. Nanfan and others have looked for traces of him, but they have not been found. Wu Dade was the luckiest. He had always stayed by Subakian's side. Although he was injured countless times, he never died once. Instead, he tempered his flawless body to be more perfect. At the same time, Subakian refined his body into it after cooking 2 pots of medicine, one was medicine and the other was poison. He was hailed as a poisonous fat man by the supreme darkness and was extremely feared. Lin Zhuzhen was fierce in killing. He once went to the pre-reincarnation period to assist Black and White to fight against the enemies. In this world, several strong men with no beginning and no end were born in the darkness. However, he joined hands with Black and White and killed 2 of them. Therefore, Lin Zhuzhen was once known as the 3rd best in the world, tied with Wu Biwizu. However, in fact, this ranking is meaningless. Because of the great battles of the supreme years, the Tao of Nanfang, Ziling, Longzixuan, and others have surpassed their original supreme realm. It is difficult to distinguish the strong from the weak, and they all have great achievements. Xuanhuan and Gongya have the least achievements, but no one dares to look down on them. There is a secret message in the darkness. Gongya still follows her. Among her few achievements, the related darkness has disappeared, and she is known as the most mysterious evil. However, it was rumored in the world that after she went to the dam, she immediately returned to the small mountain village. She never participated in the supreme war in the outside world. She just raised chickens and fish in the village every day, and sat in a daze under the plum tree at the entrance of the village from time to time. Time is like a song. In the 100,000th year, the war finally came to an end. After 100,000 years of life and death, Nanfan, Ziling, Longzixuan, Lurang, Qingchen, Duguyuking, Wu Dade, Lin Zhuzhen, and Subakian have all given birth to Benlu. An unprecedented counterattack began. The inaction person, the selfless person, after being entangled with the big black dog for countless years, was finally killed. That day, the big black dog barked loudly, and the sound shook the heavens, claiming to be the best in the world and invincible in the world. They attacked the Dark Dome, but on this day, Zhongli, who had disappeared, reappeared. The entire Dark Dome, together with the darkest Black Realm and the Black Sea of Annihilation, were exploded by the Othello line and were destroyed. Fell into great terror. Zhongli was still alive and had been silent for 100,000 years before finally becoming the master of law. However, they went to the Black Sea of Annihilation, but failed to get close to the dam. A black tower floated on the Black Sea of Nirvana, emitting energy that even the hairskers could not approach, blocking their way forward. Wow, it's actually like this. On this day, the big black dog's eyes were angry, but he didn't dare to get angry. He understood everything. It turns out that they had to fight hard for 100,000 years, all because of Master doesn't want us to pass. For 100,000 years, we have put an end to the chaos in the world, but has Master not returned yet? They were whispering. At this moment, they finally understood why many years ago, after Xuanhuan arrived here once, she returned directly to the small mountain village and never participated in the external war again. They waited for a long time in front of the Black Sea of Nirvana, and then finally left. Lurang fulfilled his oath and planted white mist grass in the Black Sea of Annihilation, the darkest dark realm, and the entire Dark Dome. The white mist dissolved the black mist, and the darkness and coldness in the world were dissolved. At the same time, reincarnation begins again, and in the reincarnation, various creatures return to the human world. Even those dark supremes were shrouded in reincarnation after they died in the war. They were reborn as geniuses and forgot their previous lives. In just a few thousand years, the world has experienced unprecedented prosperity. There is no longer the threat of darkness, and the White Mist Avenue is full of people. Nanfang, Ziling, etc. all left some dharma in the world and achieved one supreme Taoism after another. Huoling Mu Jianing, Mu Wanking, etc. all claimed their clan as ancestors, and they were all ranked supreme and commanded the world. The Dark Realm, the Dark Dome, the Forbidden Nine Continents, etc. were all collectively called the Mortal Realm. The newly born people did not know the meaning of this name. There are powerful cultivators everywhere, with glorious Taoism, and there are more and more powerful people at the level of Great Emperor and Heavenly Emperor. The world is brilliant and all creatures are happy. Except for Huo Mu Jianing and other supreme giants who have experienced the era of blood and fire, no one in the world knows that a small mountain village once existed in this world. It's almost time to finish. Let's finish it tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow at the latest. That's all. Let's talk about whether I will write a sequel after the ending. Some readers said that these pictures of mine are almost finished, so I can't just be willful and do whatever I want. When a person is about to die, his words are also good. The book is almost finished, and its plot is in vain. To belong to someone is to be willful, ha ha ha. Good night. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Goi Xin. Chapter 1254. The world is brilliant. The outside world has reached its peak of prosperity, golden times continue, and geniuses continue to emerge. Those supreme beings who had fallen before were reincarnated, and they all bloomed with splendid light. The world has entered a long era of white fog. Black fog can only appear occasionally in the outer reaches of the universe and can no longer affect the living beings in the world. There are pure lands everywhere and holy places for practice. In the 10,000th year, the world was further expanded. The original fairy land suddenly appeared in the cause and effect of the years, and the imprint of the world appeared all over the sky. The fairy way directly evolved into a universe. At the same time, the holy way, the divine way, and the way of chaos have also entered into great prosperity, and each has become a universe. Those ancient creatures have emerged one by one. In the long history of the mortal world, there is one who does not know where to stand. The world tree supports the 5 worlds of immortals, saints, gods, chaos and taboos. On this day, the world officially entered the era of 5 paths. The 5 paths were juxtaposed. The world discovered that practicing immortality, sainthood, God, chaos, and taboo in order was the same path, but practicing one of the paths alone was actually not possible. You can reach the supreme realm. Those lost cultivation systems have emerged one by one in this era. At the same time, in the long river of time, a woman in white finally returned. Her clothes were whiter than the snow, and the world tree she held in her hand had disappeared. Zhang Shui is back. On the day of the battle in Grey Mist Continent, Zhang Shui was the only one who was not alienated by the darkness Li Fan and jumped into the past. She held the world tree and reconstructed the former immortal world and other universes. She is equivalent to helping the mortal world complete the history and position the past, consolidating everything from the starting point of the immortal path to the final taboo world. She walked out of the years, stunningly talented and beautiful. The sky was filled with rays of light, and the 5 universes resonated, as if to welcome her arrival. However, except for Huo and other giants, no one in the world knew her identity. The world worshipped her but did not know her achievements. Zhang Shui only appeared in front of the world for a moment, and then disappeared. She learned the current location of the small mountain village from Huo and others, and quickly set off. Shortly after, she finally arrived in front of the small mountain village. Looking from a distance, the small mountain village stands in an ordinary mountain forest. It is dusk, and large areas of golden sunlight are falling on the mountain village. There is a vague smoke curling up from cooking stoves, and the sound of chickens and dogs can be heard in the village. Walking out of the long river of time, Zhang Shui has experienced a long time. When she saw the small mountain village, she smiled inexplicably. Her originally beautiful face like ice and snow suddenly had a look like February pear blossoms. She slowly walked into the small mountain village. Second uncle. Entering the village, she saw a person lying on a deck chair at the entrance of the village, seemingly basking in the sun. But when the man heard his voice and turned around, he was not the second uncle. Master Lin. Zhang Shui was surprised. The person lying on the second uncle's recliner was actually Lin Zhuzhen. He was enjoying himself, holding a cattail leaf fan in his hand and fanning himself. When Lin Zhuzhen saw Zhang Shui, he was also very happy and surprised. He jumped down from the recliner and said, "Miss Zhang Shui, you are finally back. That bitch said you've gone away to make up for the lost time in the world, and you won't be able to come back for a while." Immediately, he shouted towards the village and said, "Miss Zhang Shui is back and is ready to start the party." He turned back happily and said, "Miss Zhang Shui, let's go, I will take you back to the village." Zhang Shui felt an inexplicable warmth in her heart, and everything was as before. This small mountain village is still a destination and a harbor. Following Lin Zhuzhen's voice, other people in the village were also very happy. On the land in the village, Lu Rang was driving the big black cow to plow the land, and the ancient sacred cow was also following him, just like Uncle John once stopped, put away the farm tools and went home. In a certain yard, Wu Dade was muttering and feeding pigs. When he heard that the banquet was about to begin, he set his sights on a certain fat pig. The fat pig was eating happily. Suddenly, he jumped up and looked at Wu Dade in fear. Before returning to the small courtyard, the plaque on Wu Xianting was still there, and the 4 words were the same as before. Wu leisurely garden. Zhang Shui whispered, even though now she has obtained the lost cultivation systems of immortal, saint, God, and chaos, and has broken through the realm of the law, she still feels the same as before when facing these 4 words. Unfathomable. Entering the small courtyard, I saw that everything in the small courtyard was in order. Nanfan was playing the piano, and the white Sirius nestled under her skirt, sleeping quietly. Zi Ling was painting, her paintings were vivid and fast, but she couldn't draw a single figure on the pale rice paper. She is trying to draw Li Fan, but no success. Long Xuanhuan found a fishing rod and was fishing. In the pond, the figures of Kunpeng and Zhenlong appeared from time to time, fighting with him for the bait. Dugu Yuking was blacksmithing. He found a book about weapon refining in Li Fan's study. After studying it for a long time, he decided to make a sword for himself. Although he has already reached the point where everything in the world is his sword, but according to what he said, a swordsman is handsome if he has a sword. Qing Chen was playing and betting with a black spider under the Bodhi tree. When he won, the spider would turn into a human form and beat him on the back. After the spider turned into a human form, it was very stunning, with snow-white skin, slender waist, and black silk on its long snow-white legs, which looked pure and lustful. Zhang Li was playing chess with himself. Countless years had passed, and he didn't know how far his chess skills had advanced. Subakian was planting medicine on one side. The medicine field was filled with all kinds of rare medicines that could not be found in the world. Xian Ning keeps writing. She has read all Li Fan's books and is now writing her own books for fun. I heard she is writing a novel. The peach trees are still there, the old hens are pecking away at nothing, and time passes by like this day after day. Sister Zhang Shui, you are back. Seeing Zhang Shui's return, Zi Ling was very happy and put down the paintbrush in her hand. Very good. We are finally reunited. Nanfan, Subakian, Long Xuanhuan, and others were also extremely happy. Come on, kill the pig, let's have dinner tonight. Wu Dade was already shouting. Let's go, I'll dig out master's wine right away. I won't come back until I'm drunk. Dugu Yuking also spoke. Feeling everyone's enthusiasm, Zhang Shui smiled deeply. That night, a long-lost bonfire was lit in the small mountain village, and Gong Ya personally cooked a feast. Everyone was drinking and laughing, but amid the laughter, there was a different kind of sadness that could not be concealed. Zhang Shui has learned the truth about the past, and she has been silent for a long time. In the small mountain village, the second uncle and others have been sleeping until now. Nanfan and others are strong enough to break the influence of the Silent One on them in the past and let them wake up. But it seemed that they were not far away from waking up, so Nanfan and the others did not force themselves any further. Sister Yungzi is in the painting. Zi Ling's face turned red after drinking, and she said, "In this life, Master, from the first time he saw her, he left the imprint of her life in the painting. However, only when Master comes back, will she come out." In the past, when Yun 11 met Li Fan for the first time, Li Fan picked up a pen and drew a picture for her. See chapter 211 Butterfly for details. It was also because of that painting that Yungzi's own imprint of life was left in the painting, so she considered herself Li Fan's life slave and called Li Fan the Great Demon King. Now it seems that maybe she was too reluctant to give up, too worried, and too cherished, so Li Fan left a way out for her when they met for the first time. Let her life be in the painting and never fade away. When will Master come back? Wu Dade was drunk and said, "Master is not here, and I have to crawl back by myself even when I'm drunk." His eyes were red and seemed to be filled with tears. "Master will definitely return." Zhang Li was also a little depressed. They are already trillions of years away from the time and space where Li Fan originally lived. So far away. So far away. "Master, I miss you." Wu Dade was shameless and shouted. Even the big black dog barked and whimpered a few times. Xian Ning did not drink. Her little face was filled with calmness, and she was just writing her novel silently. She wrote a new chapter, which is the story of a little girl who finally met a big brother in a mountain forest. Regarding Yungzi, most readers have guessed the painting, which is quite helpless. This foreshadowing has been over 1,000 chapters, and there are still people who can remember it. OKU 666. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Gui Xian. Chapter 1255. Zhang Shui's return brings some long-lost joy to the small mountain village. She also stayed in the village and never left again. Nowadays, the outside world is prosperous, and the avenue has reached an unprecedented height, but it has nothing to do with them. The banner of the Wild Sky Alliance still stands in the entire mortal world, and Huo Ling Mu Jianing, Wu Xiaokan, and Mu Wanqing are known as the five supreme ones. Chang Sunbumi, Ji Wuden, and Wu Jianghe have all become giants with unbroken moral traditions, and are known as the three most difficult giants to offend. Almost all their descendants have a problem: they always attack the eggs when they fight, and they have a bad reputation. He. Chang Sun, Chang Qing and Yang Chu lived in seclusion and became friends with mountains and rivers. After the war, they only had peace and freedom for the rest of their lives. Time passes like this year after year. At the end of the world, the Black Sea of Nirvana is vast and empty, and above the dam, there is also a unique atmosphere of fireworks. Ao Xuanhuan built a house on the embankment, and the little monkey Lu Kaling had arrived to accompany her. Ao Xuanhuan is still running away with the whole world on his back. He doesn't know how many years have passed since Li Fan's life. The master made a fishing rod and wore a raincoat. The fishing rod was fishing towards Li Fan's life. He fished for years and fished in the heavens, but he still found nothing. The Thunder Emperor and the Water Emperor have left. After a long period of time, the two got married and had a good death. In the first million years of the mortal world, the great god Tiao was sitting on the embankment. His fishing rod suddenly broke and rotted. This made Master Tiao ponder for a long time. The fishing rod he used has long transcended time. It is eternal and perfect. It penetrates deep into the deep sky and covers the sky with a snap of your fingers. But now it is rotten? Is the sacred reduced to ruins? He didn't understand. However, he had a premonition that some kind of surprise was coming to this life, and his fishing rod was the first to notice the strangeness. Later, Xuanhuan and Tiao Dashan both had a premonition that something was wrong. In the distant history, they actually saw phantoms. The light of immortality transformed into the world, and the unpredictable phantoms of gods and demons were falling. The sky is filled with tombs of gods, and immortal evil spirits are escaping. However, everything eventually dies, and everything sacred seems to be annihilated in the long river of time. For so many years, Xuanhuan has been carrying the world on his back, and there are often shocking waves behind him that even they cannot see clearly. But now, only the power of annihilation is flowing. 100,000 years later, Tiao Dashan's second sacred fishing rod was petrified. Tiao Dashan, wearing a koi raincoat, stood on the embankment. Before he could react, he turned into a stone man. Xuanhuan was shocked and tried his best to push the world to escape, but he found that the power of this law was diminishing, as if the sacred tide had receded, and his cultivation had actually dropped to the highest level. He could no longer push the dam and fled with the world on his back. The embankment could no longer be defended. Xuanhuan took the petrified Tiao Dashan and Lu Kaling to abandon the embankment and began to retreat and flee. He crossed the Black Sea of Annihilation and entered the mortal realm of white mist. He glimpsed the great decline of the entire world. After countless years of glory and prosperity, there are countless powerful people in the world who have reached the top of the world. Taoism is like a forest, masters are like clouds, and powerful immortals, saints and other beings are above the heavens. But now, everything is in decline. In the immortal land, the aura of the immortal way diminished, the divine light in the divine realm dimmed, and both the supreme divine court and the immortal court could no longer hold on. The chaotic energy is dissipating, and it is difficult to even glimpse the taboo. Several of the masters who were born in these years have fallen directly, and they cannot even stabilize the supreme realm. They were cut down to the level of the heavenly emperor. And the original supremacy has declined sharply, and there are very few who can maintain the cultivation level of the great emperor. There is nothing better in the world. What's going on? Xuanhuan was shocked. The power of Benlu had no support, and Supreme could no longer stand. Moreover, he had a hunch that even the Emperor of Heaven might be further damaged. This world won't be able to give birth to the divine in the end, right? Xuanhuan was surprised. He hesitated for a moment, stopped worrying, turned around and headed towards the water curtain cave in Huiguo Mountain. When he arrived at Shuoliandong, he found that it was much better. The waterfall in Shuoliandong and a cup of tea from that person still covered up the great decline, allowing him and the little monkey to no longer decline. He washed the stone statue of Tiao Dashan in the waterfall. Many years passed before Tiao Dashan's eyes slowly opened and his face recovered, but his body was still petrified. "Dance master, can you understand what's going on?" Xuanhuan asked the master Tiao. The master dance showed an ugly smile and said, "The Great Recession, all things return to the mortal world, and then are reborn, for the old gods, this is a catastrophe, but there is a foundation for the future. The battle over Xiao Li's side may have come to an end." Another 10,000 years passed. 10,000 years is just a blink of an eye in the long history of the mortal world. But for the creatures in the world, this is 10,000 years of incomparable torture. During these 10,000 years, the former lawmaster could not even maintain the cultivation of the Emperor of Heaven. His Taoist heart collapsed and he exploded between heaven and earth, creating a tragic song. Even emperor-level cultivation has become a luxury. For the creatures who practice the forbidden way, the Tao scenery began to decay. The immortal seeds they planted and the divine beasts they raised could no longer be maintained, and the 5 elements were all corrupted. The fairyland officially became a mortal land 3,000 years ago, and not even a single fairy grass could be born. The divine light in the divine world has completely ebbed, and it is no longer possible for the creatures in the world to evolve into divine beasts through the divine light. Chaos energy disappeared 7,000 years ago. The whole world feels like it has entered a great recession. In the ebbing tide, countless creatures are struggling. The Supreme One who has been glorious for more than one life is roaring. The Emperor of the Immortal Court is asking the sky, and the magical powers of immortal creatures are being cut off. The fairyland fell, the divine court was annihilated, chaos merged into the ordinary earth, and taboos only existed in chapters. The once supreme dragon finally fell into the stream and turned into the most common crocodile, even a loach, and a shocking alien phoenix. It fell into the mountains and forests, unable to fly even 100 meters high, and was of no use to the pheasants. The creatures were not killed, but all magical powers were greatly weakened. Eventually, even consciousness becomes difficult to preserve. The whole world was completely quiet. The noisy prosperity and vain sanctity will eventually dissipate. There is only an ordinary land and ordinary creatures left. The human race has also become weak. After losing the magical power that reaches the heaven and the earth, they are powerless in the face of minor disasters such as flash floods, earthquakes, and volcanoes. Even the past of the mortal world is no longer known. The lifespan of living beings has become shorter and shorter. The inheritance has been cut off and the past has been lost. Only a few legends are still passed down orally. No one knows that the universe is exploding up and down the years, at the edges and even at the end. From the past until the future. All time and cause and effect have been annihilated. Small village. Nanfan, Xiling, etc., fell into a deep sleep many years ago when the sacredness declined. The entire village has become extremely desolate, the weeds have grown wildly, the stone buildings have become dusty, and they no longer have the same sacred atmosphere as before. It's like it's turned into a ghost village. The leaves of the peach trees have withered throughout the seasons, and the former streets have been abandoned. Quiet as death. Many years have passed. A young man suddenly came to the village. He was holding a white cat in his arms, covered in dust, as if he had come from a very far away place, and walked into the village with a smile in his eyes. "Wake up!" He called towards the sleeping mountain village and said. "The banquet is now open, braised elbow, braised chicken feet, braised sea bass, roasted whole lamb, braised whole beef, is there anything you want to eat? Sign up." Complete book. The main text of this book is finished. This is the ending, October 27, 2020, updated to June 23, 2022, almost a year and 8 months. I feel a little empty in my heart for no reason, so I will wait until I finish this review before posting. As for the extras, I will release them slowly. I guess I still have to write some extras, but brothers and sisters who are tired of chasing, don't have to wait any longer. That's it, I wish you all happiness. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1256. In fact, I have thought many times before about how to post the finished book, how to post it in a way that would not lose its grace, would make readers like it, and would bring back everyone's memories of past plots and their expectations for my new book. But when I finally finished writing this essay, I found that I was actually very peaceful inside. There is a sense of relief. This book accompanied me during a period of growth. In October 2020, I had just graduated for a year. I was not able to adapt to the pace of work. My naive worldview was hit hard by society, and I was very emo. When I wrote books in the past, I always wrote in a very angry young style, pleading for the people, idealism, all kinds of things. Fan is my third book, not counting the unsuccessful ones. When I wrote this book, I mainly wanted to escape from life. It's just a picture of fun, and I don't care how it can be written. Anyway, it's whatever makes your imagination happy. So the first 1 million words, the part about the immortal era, was the most enjoyable to write, and there was no need to think about anything. At the beginning of the Holy Path, I had to worry about the continuity of the plot and the continuity of the plot, so that the overall plot would not be messy and the readers would continue to have a reading experience. Moreover, this kind of novel is particularly difficult to write, because the protagonist himself is invincible. The plot can only be 1 million words long, and then it starts to fall apart. The same is true for most articles of the same type. After reaching 1 million words, they either become sloppy or continue to be useless. I don't think so, I really don't think so. Starting from the holy way, to the divine way, and then to chaos, no matter whether readers think I am incompetent or not, I personally wrote very hard. I racked my brains, wrote various ideas and so on, and used up a new stack of A4 paper. Fortunately, hard work is hard work. Readers can see, there are cats to play with, and life is not bad. Then after entering the taboo world, I encountered a lot of very bad things. The platform collapsed, all the editors who had been so good with me were dismissed, and the manuscript fees were delayed. The original platform still hasn't paid me a lot of money. It was at this point that I started to feel really confused. Moreover, it took a long time to write, and I felt like my emotions and imagination had been exhausted. I really feel like I don't have a drop left. Otherwise, there is still a lot to explore in the worldview and plot. The Silent One, and others all appeared in advance. Some readers of the plot felt that I was rushing. Because my mood is really broken, I am very worried. The more I write, the more rubbish I will write, and I will really end up in a bad situation. Therefore, for this ending, maybe everyone can give it a so-so 60 points. If you keep putting it off, maybe everyone will just give it a 0 score in the end, and then scold this old dog Xuanhuan for the bad plot and the bad money. So forget it, just finish it as soon as possible, that's fine. Moreover, I am quite proud of a book of the same type. It contains 3.5 million words, 8 months a year, and an average of 175,000 words are updated every month. The quality is indeed high enough to satisfy most readers. Now, the hole you dug should be filled in. Where can you find such a good home and what else can you do? Enough is enough, In fact, I felt really uncomfortable later on, including when I typed this paragraph. I also felt a little bitter, really bitter. According to the rules of the Internet Literary Circle, a 3.5 million word book like mine is in the prime of life, equivalent to the prime of life of an emperor. As long as there are resources and everything is normal, it can still shine. In the end, I encountered bad luck. I was struck with one knife after another until I couldn't stand it anymore. Li Fan and the others defeated the knight, but I did not. Sorry everyone. It turns out that someone is too young, his character is not good enough, his talent is not enough, and his ability is not enough. That's all. As for the new book, I didn't really think about it. I finished the book almost without any preparation. Generally speaking, authors have to wait for the new book to be successful before they dare to finish the old book. If you cut yourself off, you will be hungry, and you will face the torment and embarrassment of a new book. I might write some extras and shamelessly open a small account to test out new books. If the writing is good, I will tell you. If the writing is not good, then I will quietly be a flutter on the street that no one knows. That's it. If there is news about the new book, I will tell everyone on the official account Geixen's Nest. It seems that the public account has been blocked for the past few days due to reports. You can also wait a few days and search again. That's it, there's nothing more to say. I wish you all a good time and I wish you all happiness. Finally, I want to say that the testimonials are free, and these nonsense are not a waste of everyone's money. Above. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1257. In fact, I have thought many times before about how to post the finished book, how to post it in a way that would not lose its grace, would make readers like it, and would bring back everyone's memories of past plots and their expectations for my new book. But when I finally finished writing this essay, I found that I was actually very peaceful inside. There is a sense of relief. This book accompanied me during a period of growth. In October 2020, I had just graduated for a year. I was not able to adapt to the pace of work. My naive worldview was hit hard by society, and I was very emo. When I wrote books in the past, I always wrote in a very angry young style, pleading for the people, idealism, all kinds of things. Fan is my third book, not counting the unsuccessful ones. When I wrote this book, I mainly wanted to escape from life. It's just a picture of fun, and I don't care how it can be written. Anyway, it's whatever makes your imagination happy. So the first 1,000,000 words, the part about the immortal era, was the most enjoyable to write, and there was no need to think about anything. At the beginning of the Holy Path, I had to worry about the continuity of the plot and the continuity of the plot, so that the overall plot would not be messy and the readers would continue to have a reading experience. Moreover, this kind of novel is particularly difficult to write, because the protagonist himself is invincible. The plot can only be 1,000,000 words long, and then it starts to fall apart. The same is true for most articles of the same type. After reaching 1,000,000 words, they either become sloppy or continue to be useless. I don't think so, I really don't think so. Starting from the holy way, to the divine way, and then to chaos, no matter whether readers think I am incompetent or not, I personally wrote very hard. I racked my brains, wrote various ideas and so on, and used up a new stack of A4 paper. Fortunately, hard work is hard work. Readers can see, there are cats to play with, and life is not bad. Then after entering the taboo world, I encountered a lot of very bad things. The platform collapsed, all the editors who had been so good with me were dismissed, and the manuscript fees were delayed. The original platform still hasn't paid me a lot of money. It was at this point that I started to feel really confused. Moreover, it took a long time to write, and I felt like my emotions and imagination had been exhausted. I really feel like I don't have a drop left. Otherwise, there is still a lot to explore in the worldview and plot. The Silent One, and others all appeared in advance. Some readers of the plot felt that I was rushing. Because my mood is really broken, I am very worried. The more I write, the more rubbish I will write, and I will really end up in a bad situation. Therefore, for this ending, maybe everyone can give it a so-so 60 points. If you keep putting it off, maybe everyone will just give it a 0 score in the end, and then scold this old dog Xuanhuan for the bad plot and the bad money. So forget it, just finish it as soon as possible, that's fine. Moreover, I am quite proud of a book of the same type. It contains 3.5 million words, 8 months a year, and an average of 175,000 words are updated every month. The quality is indeed high enough to satisfy most readers. Now, the hole you dug should be filled in. Where can you find such a good home and what else can you do? Enough is enough, In fact, I felt really uncomfortable later on, including when I typed this paragraph. I also felt a little bitter, really bitter. According to the rules of the Internet Literary Circle, a 3.5 million word book like mine is in the prime of life, equivalent to the prime of life of an emperor. As long as there are resources and everything is normal, it can still shine. In the end, I encountered bad luck. I was struck with one knife after another until I couldn't stand it anymore. Li Fan and the others defeated the knight, but I did not. Sorry everyone. It turns out that someone is too young, his character is not good enough, his talent is not enough, and his ability is not enough. That's all. As for the new book, I didn't really think about it. I finished the book almost without any preparation. Generally speaking, authors have to wait for the new book to be successful before they dare to finish the old book. If you cut yourself off, you will be hungry, and you will face the torment and embarrassment of a new book. I might write some extras and shamelessly open a small account to test out new books. If the writing is good, I will tell you. If the writing is not good, then I will quietly be a flutter on the street that no one knows. That's it. If there is news about the new book, I will tell everyone on the official account Geixen's Nest. It seems that the public account has been blocked for the past few days due to reports. You can also wait a few days and search again. That's it, there's nothing more to say. I wish you all a good time and I wish you all happiness. Finally, I want to say that the testimonials are free, and these nonsense are not a waste of everyone's money. Above. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1258. Wake up. The banquet is open, red elbow, braised sea bass, roasted whole lamb, stewed whole beef, Buddha jumping over the wall, scrambled eggs, roasted goose, beggar's chicken. Is there anything you want to eat? A clear voice spread throughout the mountain village. At this moment, the small mountain village that had been sleeping for countless years suddenly seemed to come to life. This sleep is so comfortable. In a stone house, the second uncle woke up sleepily, stretched his waist, got up and went out, but he was surprised and said, "Huh? What's going on? It's only been a few days, why are all the weeds growing in my yard?" The second uncle was stunned. The once clean and tidy yard was now overgrown with weeds, and even a lot of plants grew on the roof. What's going on? This land looks like it hasn't been plowed in a few years. Is that ridiculous? On the roadside, Uncle Zhang also walked out. He held his rotten whip and said, "Old Zhao, what's going on? Is there something dirty coming to the village again?" Not only them, on this day, 7 ants and 8 ants, old and young, all woke up from their sleep. The sun is shining, let's get up and play. A group of children, including Wang Xiao and Arya, ran out of the grass. Ah, this vegetable field is completely deserted, what can we eat here? Aunt Wang looked at the unrecognizable vegetable field and shouted. The water in the ditch has dried up and the land is completely dry. How can we deal with this? Yes, all the fruit trees I planted are dead. Faced with the great changes in the small mountain village, the villagers lamented. It doesn't matter if the land is deserted. We will plow tomorrow. Don't be afraid when the water dries up. We will dig a well tomorrow. But the young man at the entrance of the village walked in all the way, pulling many animals behind him, including cows, sheep, chickens, ducks, pigs, etc., and said, "Today's banquet, let's eat enough first, and raise the rest so that we don't have to worry about meat in the future." Seeing him, the villagers were stunned for a moment, and then they all ran towards him in an instant. "Isn't this Xiao Li? Oh, you are finally back. I haven't seen you for many years. Xiao Li has returned to the village. Let's have a banquet. Let's have a banquet. Lao Zhang, come here and drag this big fat pig over with me. Kill him." The villagers were very lively, and they had not forgotten Li Fan. Even the weeds that could be seen everywhere in the village were ignored by everyone. They immediately ran to Li Fan, talking and pulling the animals away. "Xiao Li, I remember a few years ago, when you first came to the village and woke us up, our village was deserted. Now that you left for a while and came back, it was deserted again, you have to be responsible. The second uncle smiled and said, my crutches are broken, you have to make me a new one. So is my bullwhip. Uncle Zhang also spoke next to him. Li Fan smiled one by one and said, good. He finished talking to the enthusiastic villagers and then headed towards the small courtyard. The villagers started to move lively. They cleared all the weeds in the village to make a clearing, then started cooking, killing pigs and sheep. It was so lively. Everything is exactly the same as when Xiao Li first came to the small mountain village. No two leisurely gardens. The plaque had fallen to the ground, and the holiness turned into nothingness. Li Fan gently stretched out his hand and pushed open the old wood door. Entering the small courtyard, there are also many weeds growing in the small courtyard. The peach tree looked withered, its leaves falling all over the ground. Meow meow. In my arms, the kitten meowed softly. Li Fan placed the kitten on the stone table under the peach tree, then picked up the broom and swept the small courtyard clean. He did the housework very seriously. He swept away all the leaves of the peach trees. He also pulled out all the weeds in the vegetable field, tidied the land evenly, and cleaned the inside and outside of the yard. Then he began to dig a well, began to repair the courtyard, filled the exhausted pond with water, picked up a few fossil-like fish, and threw them into the water. There were only stone-like eggs left in the chicken coop, but Li Fan wiped them carefully with a handkerchief, and the stone slowly became smooth as an egg shell. Stone eggs literally turn into eggs. He watered the plants in the yard one by one. A new sprout sprouted from the dark red hay. A dead grape sprouts new branches. A withered lotus root grows slowly in the water. Among the piles of green grass, tender green is revealed. A pale dry tree, its leaves slowly stretched out again. Under the Bodhi tree, new Bodhi trees are sprouting. New green spreads on the stumps of the unicorn trees. Under the dead old bamboo, a bamboo shoot sprouted from the ground. The rusty thorn tree cracked open, and golden light bloomed slightly among the rust. A piece of dead two-leaf grass grew on one side with white soil and on the other side with black soil. Li Fan conditioned the soil and then buried the grass roots in it. Then, he looked at the animal stone sculptures on one side and walked over. He smiled and stroked his hands over the stone sculptures. Suddenly, the stone sculptures split open and animals jumped out. Little white wolf. White foal. A golden calf. A fiery red bird. A clever monkey. A little turtle. A strange little unicorn. A little white fox. These little animals came to life. When they saw Li Fan, their big and smart eyes seemed to be seeing their relatives. They ran over affectionately, surrounding Li Fan and the kitten. Li Fan smiled, then walked aside. From the stone sculpture of a big dog, a big black dog suddenly jumped out. Woof! The big black dog waggled its tail and ran towards Li Fan, the dog's eyes filled with excitement. Li Fan gently touched its head and said, "Thanks for your hard work." The big black dog barked a few times, jumped and frantically, and ran back and forth. It was so exciting. In the small courtyard, a vibrant scene suddenly appeared. Then, Li Fan looked at the doors of many disciples' rooms, just waved his hand, and then went to the study on his own. And at this moment, Nanfan, Xiling, Long Zixuan, Lu Rang, Du Guyuking, Qing Chen, Zhang Li, Wu Dade, Lin Zhichuan, Su Beiqian, Gong Ya, Xining, Zhang Shui. They all suddenly wake up from their deep sleep. How did I wake up? Nanfan woke up. She had slept for who knows how many years. She subconsciously stood up and opened the door. A white shadow had already rushed towards her. Little wolf. You're alive. Nanfan looked at the little wolf with excitement in his eyes. He stroked the little wolf's head and looked at everything in the yard. At this moment, other disciples also opened the door and walked out. There is water in the pond again, Brother Long, Kun Peng, they are all alive. Long Xuanhuan stood by the pond and shouted. My vegetable patch, my grass, haha, I can still be green. Lu Rang laughed. Red. Dugu Yuking looked at the Suzaku flying into the palm of his hand, and his eyes were almost wet. Rub, you damn dog, bite gently and I'll rub it. Why does it hurt so much? Why don't you go back to sleep? As soon as Wu Dade went out, the big black dog wanted to run around everywhere, making him fly like a dog. Master, Master must be back. Zi Ling was as beautiful as ever. Even though she had been sleeping for eternity, her big eyes were still extremely clear, and her long eyelashes were trembling lightly. Her words also made all the disciples tremble. Master! Master, has Master come back? It must be that only Master can transform decay into magic. Where is he? Master, don't leave us. The disciples were all shouting. As for Xuanhuan, she thought of something and ran directly towards the study. In the study room, a clear voice sounded. What's the noise about? Hearing this sound, everyone in the small courtyard who was excited stopped. They all looked towards the study room. Everyone's face is filled with a deep longing and an unparalleled expectation. The entire courtyard fell silent, and everyone looked at the study. Then, the study door opened. In the study room, a man and a woman came out hand in hand. Master, Sister Yungzi. Zi Ling spoke excitedly. Those who walked out of the study were Li Fan and Yun 11. Master, you are finally back. Great, great. Meet the Master. At this moment, all the disciples were extremely excited. They stepped forward and saluted Li Fan. They had waited for countless years and had thousands of words, but they could not say them at this moment. No need to be polite, get up quickly. Li Fan opened his mouth and said with a smile. We just haven't seen each other for a while, what's the big deal? Why are you so sad? I asked the second uncle and the others to hold a banquet. Let's go and take you to the banquet. Hearing this, a group of disciples were even more surprised. Let's get started. Everyone walked towards the outside of the small courtyard together. Yungzi held Li Fan's hand tightly and whispered. Great Demon King, are you really back? Li Fan gently scratched her nose with his hand and said. Certainly. On the open space in the village, the villagers were already extremely busy. Bake the fire hotter, hurry up, I haven't eaten meat for a long time, I'm starving. Don't worry, the meat slices are thicker and full of flavor. This beef is so fragrant, better than any beef we have ever eaten. The villagers gathered together. Uncle Zhang led people to kill pigs, sheep, and cattle. Aunt Wang led the women in the village to select vegetables and peel onions. Even Ming Tianbei and the others were awake and helping to light the fire. Xiao Li, you are here, hurry up, the good meat is all left, waiting for your chef. When the second uncle saw Li Fan and the others coming, he spoke happily. Li Fan also smiled and said. Good. What do you want to eat? Start signing up. Hearing this, a group of disciples rushed over. Master, I want big pork knuckles, braised in brown sauce, 3 pieces. King Chen's eyes glowed. Spicy braised beef tendon, this is the most delicious. Zi Ling's big eyes were filled with anticipation. Master, I want to eat yam, corn, and pork ribs. Nanfeng spoke. Master, I want both farm-style stir-fried pork and braised pork. Lu Rang's eyes were full of greed. Master, make a base. Even Long Xuanhuan spoke quietly. Master, eat dog meat. Wu Date opened his mouth, but as soon as he finished speaking, he was bitten and ran around holding his buttocks. Everyone is signing up. The banquet has not been open in many years, and they are all hungry. Good. Li Fan smiled, put on his apron, and stepped forward directly to start cooking. Big Demon King, I'm here to help you. Yungzi also held an apron and followed Li Fan. She turned around and said, Big Devil, tie it for me. Li Fan immediately tied an apron on her, and her waist suddenly showed out, and Li Fan's heart skipped a beat. Just like when I first met her. Gong Ya also came over to help, and the scene suddenly became lively. Li Fan's movements were smooth, and delicious dishes were served one after another. Yun 11 was beside him, and he was not helping from time to time. The disciples were all looking forward to it. The food is served, let's have a dinner. Finally, all kinds of vegetables and meats were served, and men, women, old and young were all served together. Li Fan, Yungzi, Nanfan, Xiling, Long Xuanhuan, Lu Rang, Dugu Yuking, Qing Chen, Zhang Li, Wu Dade, Subakian, Gong Ya, Xining, and Zhang Shui are all here. Surround them. A big table. Try it, these ingredients are uniquely fresh. Li Fan smiled and put meat into Yungzi's bowl as he spoke. Yun 11 picked up a piece of braised pork and took a bite. A look of enjoyment suddenly appeared in his beautiful eyes, and he said, It's delicious, it's delicious. The other disciples also started to move. Qing Chen was chewing a big pig elbow in his left and right hands respectively, Long Xuanhuan was eating fish, Wu Dade grabbed a big beef bone and was chewing it, then threw it to the big black dog after chewing it. Xiling was eating spicy braised beef tendon, extremely happy. Everything feels like yesterday. There is no difference at all. This meat is even more fragrant than the supreme. It's nothing, it's not as delicious as this one, I don't know where it can be found. While eating, they discussed. Night falls. Tonight, the small mountain village that has been silent for many years has a unique atmosphere of fireworks. There are many bonfires. Around the bonfire, everyone talks about homely things. Uncle Zhang is planning how to farm the land and what crops will be best to plant in the first season. The second uncle is thinking about what kind of wood to use for his crutches. Aunt Wang asked Li Fan to open a larger vegetable plot for her. Wang Xiao'er said his slingshot was broken and he asked Li Fan to help him make a new one. No one mentioned the wars in the years, those glorious or tragic pasts, they all seemed to have become a dream. There is no need to care, and there is no need to recall it. Everyone was drinking, one drink after another. Master, the meat tastes so good today. Where can I get these ingredients? Wu Dade was still holding a roasted golden lamb leg in his hand. While eating and drinking, he was already a little drunk and asked Li Fan questions. Li Fan smiled and said, No more, it's all gone. Oh, I can't eat any more. Wu Dade muttered, and then fell drunk. You're talking nonsense, why can't you eat it? Xiao Li left a lot of food to raise, and he will eat it every day after he is fattened. The second uncle did smile and said, Xiao Li, come on, drink. Li Fan raised his glass and drank with the second uncle. Finally, it was late at night. Campfires were sparse. The villagers have dispersed. As for the disciples, almost all of them were drunk. Li Fan couldn't help but shake his head, I have to drag people around again. Immediately, he hugged Nanfan, Xiling, Gong Ya, Subakian, Xining, and Zhang Shui back, and then came back to drag Wu Dade and the others. Great Demon King, let me help you. Yun 11's face turned red after drinking, and she was also trying hard to help Li Fan drag him away. Finally, the disciples dragged them back. Li Fan, I still want to drink. Yun 11 smiled at Li Fan, smiled brightly, and said, I miss you so much. She passed out drunk. Li Fan hugged her gently. Under the peach tree, he hugged Yun 11 like this, as if all time had stopped. After a long time, he carried Yun 11 back to the house. In the small courtyard. In the hen house, an egg suddenly cracked, and a ray of light turned into an old hen. In the pond, the koi fish jumped out of the water with great force. "This dragon is back again!" The real dragon shouted, its shadow shook the sky. "You idiot from the dragon clan, please keep your voice down. You've disturbed the master. Do you believe we will eat fish tomorrow?" The old hen said coldly. Suddenly, a group of real dragons were stunned, and then they instantly submerged into the water and stopped moving. "Peach tree, your magical power has been restored, can you consult the heavens?" The old hen opened her mouth towards the peach tree. The clear voice of the peach tree sounded, the branches drooped lightly, and said, "There are no more heavens, only one universe, billions of stars, and all realms have returned to their ordinary starting point. This is the future, the pure land of life." Between her branches, a picture is reflected. It was a vast starry sky filled with stars, like blinking eyes. Among the stars in the sky, there were many strange stars, mostly blue, exuding the breath of life. A certain blue star is extremely dazzling. The master went back to the past from here and settled everything. We ran away along the river of time. In this life, the master also returned. The peach tree whispered everything. I will complete this chapter after I return to satisfy some readers' wishes. This chapter can also be considered the true ending. Good night. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1259. Note before reading, this article was previously published on the public account Geixen's Nest. Readers who have already read it on the public account please do not need to read it again. 1. The Birth of Evil Spirits. Demon Island. The scarlet moon sheds boundless blood-colored light, shrouding the dark land, and the cold wind passes by, carrying the blood energy and drifting in all directions. On the endless wasteland, corpses are scattered all over, all of them are demons. All the way forward from the wasteland where corpses litter the fields, there are undulating mountains and rivers and deep valleys on the dark land. Hundreds of demon tribes live on this land. Now, in a valley. The moonlight was dim, there were many demonic shadows, and the main hall of the demon clan's worship tribe was brightly lit. The worshipping fierce department, as its name suggests, worships the ghost evil with a notorious reputation on the land of demons. Every July, when the red moon is in the sky, evil spirits will come. The evil worshippers will offer newly born babies to the evil spirits in exchange for a year of peace. The living environment of hundreds of demon tribes is extremely harsh. In addition to fighting each other endlessly, there are all kinds of dangers on the earth. In order to survive, many demon tribes have chosen witches, gods, ghosts, etc. as objects of worship. King, 12 more of my demon tribe have been slaughtered. In the main hall, a middle-aged demon cultivator whispered. He looked at the tribal king sitting on the bone chair above and said, "According to the information received, 13 children of the stars were born in the human race this time. For this reason, they are going to kill the 13 members of my demon clan and wash their bodies with demon blood. We are the closest to the 12 tribes that were massacred, will there be any problems?" The old tribal king sneered and said, "We have Goiji to protect us, there will be no problem. Are those women who are praying for a natural pregnancy ready?" The middle-aged demon was silent for a moment and said, "King, this time, there are 100 women from our clan to be sacrificed, isn't that too much?" The tribe king shook his head and said, "Mochi, you are so benevolent as a woman, exchanging 100 women for 1 year of peace is already the best result." Mochi fell silent, maybe this was the only choice. Hoo-hoo. A ghostly wind blew in the valley. The time has come, we should go to worship Lord Goi 11. The tribal king got up and led everyone to the altar. On top of the altar, 100 pregnant women lay. They had not yet given birth, but the time was enough. These 100 women are the ones who received the heavenly pregnancy. On the land of the demons, there is a broken and lost land, where the fallen ancient spirits are hidden. If a woman enters it, she has a chance to be reincarnated by those ancient spirits. This is a natural pregnancy. This is also the only way to bring the souls of those ancient spirits out of the broken and lost land. However, most of those ancient spirits have died away, leaving only ghosts. Even if they are reincarnated, the children they give birth to are often stillborn. But this kind of stillbirth is very useful to ghosts and evil spirits. Therefore, every year, the evil worshipping department sends a certain number of women into the land to receive a natural pregnancy for the ghosts and evil spirits to enjoy. All the women who had been destined lay numbly on the altar, waiting for their tragic fate. No. Wang, I feel it. The child in my belly is alive. Let me go, don't let him be eaten by the evil ghost, no. But one of the women shouted for help when she saw the tribal king and others arriving. She struggled, trying to climb down from the altar. Stop her. The tribal king spoke indifferently. I can die, but not the child in my belly, please, let him go. The woman shouted sadly. Mochi couldn't help but said. King, why don't you let her come down and see if it's true? If the heavenly pregnancy gives birth to life, there may be some changes. The old tribal king said coldly. No way. Right now. A ghostly wind blows. A pair of oily green pupils lit up in the darkness. The evil spirits have arrived. Welcome the evil spirits. Welcome the evil spirits. The tribal king shouted. They knelt on the ground. And in the darkness, an evil ghost slowly walked out. It smiled ferociously, stretched out its green claws, scratched the belly of a witch, grabbed a stillborn fetus from it, and threw it into its mouth. The soul of the evil ghost is strengthening, and the stillborn child reincarnated by the ancient spirit is of great benefit to him. The evil ghost started to eat. But, at this moment, suddenly, a long arrow with a spiritual talisman suddenly struck from the sky and hit the evil ghost directly. Ah! The evil spirit let out a shrill scream. There is an enemy attack. Everyone in the demon clan reacted immediately. And densely packed battleships have appeared in the sky. It's the human race. One of the demons spoke tremblingly. Everyone in the demon clan was panicking at this moment, and they hurriedly responded. Don't be afraid, Lord Goi 11 is here, we are fine. The tribal king shouted. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the evil spirit turned into a gust of wind and disappeared. It escaped. No. Seeing this scene, everyone in the demon clan was in despair. Haha, it's such a pity that this evil ghost has done something good and has not been killed. On the battleship, a strong human race man holding a bow and arrow spoke coldly and said. The massacre can begin. Collect the demon blood. This is a necessary material for refining medicine. It can temper the supreme treasure body for the 13 sons of the stars of my human race. As soon as the words fell, the human cultivators on the battleship came to kill him instantly. Many demon clans suddenly fell into death disaster. The demon race that drinks blood is much weaker than the human race that has a strong heritage. The man on the battleship was even more brave. He shot and killed the powerful demons one after another. Master Goi 11 has abandoned us, no. The tribal king was almost desperate at this moment. After despair, he went crazy and rushed towards the sky. Human race, I will fight with you. His eyes were about to burst with anger, and his demonic body exploded at this moment. Boom! The battleships were all torn into pieces, and the strong human being holding a bow and arrow was also knocked away. The tribe king blew himself up, severely damaging the attacking humans. If you dare to hurt me, my Yang Yuan will destroy your entire clan. The strong human being holding a bow and arrow became angry and slaughtered 12 tribesmen. This was the first time he was injured. But, fortunately, Only the old, weak, sick, and disabled are left in the demon clan. He raised his bow and prepared to shoot them one by one. But, right now, a gust of wind came. No. Gui 11 is back. Yang Yuanji's expression changed. Now he didn't want to fight head-on with Gui 11. He immediately turned around and left, no longer staying. The remaining demons and others are all surviving the disaster at this moment. Thank you, Lord Geixi. Thank you, Lord Geixi. They knelt down and worshipped the ghost who had gone and returned. However, the evil ghost just opened its mouth and swallowed dozens of demons. Suddenly, everyone panicked. How is this going? You guys are finished this time. It's impossible to satisfy the murderer's needs in the future. Today, I'll eat all of you. The evil spirit spoke gloomily. Hearing this, all the demons were in despair. Now, they have lost their value to Gui 11. I'll fight you. Mochi was the only remaining demon warrior. He stepped forward, but was only knocked back dozens of meters away by Guiji with a flick of his finger. The evil ghost, on the other hand, walked towards the altar, with salivation in its ghost eyes. I feel it, there's something delicious about me. It went and came back just because it noticed that there was something extraordinary on the altar. He slashed the belly of one demon woman after another. They ate one stillbirth after another. No. Don't come here, don't touch my child. The witch who had previously begged the tribe king and others to spare her child now spoke in horror. But the evil ghost's eyes shone brightly and he said, "Found it?" It nicked the witch's belly. A loud cry suddenly echoed throughout the valley. At this moment, in the sky, in the red moon, endless light suddenly surged in. In the valley, in front of the altar, the evil ghost shivered and knelt in front of the corpse of the witch. In the witch's belly, a baby cried loudly. She cried loudly, and when she opened her mouth, she sucked in the moonlight from the sky into her body. The soul of the kneeling evil ghost was directly shattered. After a long time, the members of the worshipping tribe were extremely shocked when they saw the scene on the altar. Mochi supported the seriously injured body and walked over. He picked up the baby, raised it above his head, and said with tears on his face, "God pity the demon clan, this child is the savior of our demon clan. The devil can't save us, only she can, she is our devil." Evil. 2. Lost childhood. 5 years later. In a green grassland with a stream flowing through it, a little girl sat by the stream and put her little feet into the stream. She played with the water and watched the tadpoles swimming around in the stream, fascinated. "Lord Moji, why are you playing with water again?" Suddenly, a voice sounded from behind, and a woman walked over, frowning. The little girl hurriedly got up from the stream. She lowered her head in fear and said, "I'm just going to play for a while." The witch sighed and said, "Sir, you have to practice hard, you know. You shoulder the important task of reviving our demon clan." The devil nodded and said, "I see." The witch nodded and said, "Sir, it's time for you to eat." Hearing this, the little girl shook her head and said, "No. Alan, I don't want to eat anymore. I don't want to eat your food. You will die, I don't want you to die. Ahua and Aze are both dead. I don't want you to die." She started crying and wanted to run away. However, Alan grabbed her shoulders, looked at her with eyes filled with crystal tears, and said word by word, "Sir, you are our hope. We can die, but you must grow up. If you don't eat, Alan will die now." She took out the dagger and put it on her neck. The little girl wiped her tears and said, "I don't want to eat, I don't want to eat, but please don't commit suicide, okay?" Alan's eyes were filled with tears, but he smiled and said, "Sir, you must eat." She rolled up her sleeves, exposed her white arms, cut her own blood vessels with a knife, and brought it to the little girl's mouth. No. The little girl resisted, but was still drunk with demon blood. That night, Alan was carried into the cemetery by the tribe. Her essence and blood had been exhausted. Alan, do you have any last words? The new tribal king Mochi looked at Alan with a trace of compassion in his vicissitudes of life. Only 5 years later, his hair has turned grey. Wang, Alan has no regrets, but please don't tell Lord Mo11 that I am dead, okay? She will be sad, she is really kind, but we forced her to take the cruelest path. With a trace of sadness on Alan's face, he said. For the sake of the demons, we have no choice, but if you can, please give her some happy time, okay? After Alan finished speaking, she closed her eyes, and a tear fell from the corner of her eye. Watching Alan die, Mochi supported his body and stood up. King, there is no one in the clan who is suitable for Master Mochi to use the demon blood. Behind him, a demon whispered. Mochi raised his eyes and looked in the direction of the human race territory. A determined light burst out in his eyes. I'll find it. Alan left, and the little girl spent 3 days in a daze in the valley. In the past 3 days, she walked outside the cemetery more than once. However, she didn't dare to go in. She knew that Alan, Ahua, and others, the people who had treated her like sisters, were all lying inside, silent forever. The demon race is revived, I want the demon race to be revived. She wiped her tears and didn't understand what these 4 words meant, but she knew that this was what Ahua Alan and the others required of themselves with their lives. That night, Mochi came back. He lost an arm, had a hole in his chest, and was covered in scars. However, he captured 5 children who were similar in age to the little girl. They are all human geniuses, give it to Lord Moxie. He only had time to say the sentence before he fell into coma. 5 human children were imprisoned, and everyone in the demon clan was anxious about the king's injury, but they had no time to care about them. Moji still likes to play by the stream. She likes to see the free fish in the stream and the deer running in the forest. One day, she met the 5 human children. The 5 human children were being taken by her tribe to the magic pool to take a bath and prepare to feed the evil demon with blood. It was the first time Mog saw a child of the same age, so she went with her, but the demon adults didn't care. In the magic pool, the 5 children were hesitant and did not dare to enter. This water is very clean, come down and play. The devil volunteered. She walked into the devil pond, grabbed a fish growing in the devil pond, and said, "Look, there are fish in it." The 5 human children were captured ignorantly, and they were also naughty children, so they immediately started playing with her. "What's your name?" "My name is Xuanhuan, and I'm the genius of the Zheng family." One of the little girls looked at Mog and introduced herself. Mog said, "My name is Mog." Hearing this, a group of children laughed. "How can anyone be called Moshiu? You lied to us." They didn't believe it, and Mog tried very hard to explain that her name was really Mog. She also knew the names of these children: Zhenyun, Wang Tian, Lu Xiaosong, Su Qing, Mu Han. They caught fish and played in the water in the magic pond. There was no distinction between demons or humans, and they were harmonious. The next day, they went to the river to catch loaches together and caught many loaches. However, after catching them, the devil asked everyone to let them go. They played around in the valley, looked for treasures buried under tree roots, and acted like adults together. In those days, the little girl felt unprecedented happiness. Finally, Mochi woke up from his serious injury, and he immediately sent someone to kill Mochi and the 5 human children. Entering the main hall and seeing Mochi, the 5 children were so frightened that they started crying. "Zhenyun, don't cry. Uncle Mochi is a very nice person." Moji tried to comfort them. However, Mochi said coldly. You can feed the blood to Master Moji and kill them. It rained heavily that night. Moji was crying in her hut, with blood still coming from the corners of her mouth. She hugged her knees and felt an unprecedented sadness and pain. I drank the blood of a good friend. Woo! She sobbed quietly. Thunder and lightning flashed outside the window. She suddenly remembered that Zhenyun and Lu Xiaosong might also die tomorrow. Zhenyun and Lu Xiaosong are still alive and imprisoned. No. I can no longer watch my friends die. She opened the door and was hit by heavy rain. She ran through the rain to the place where Lu Xiaosong and the others were detained. There was only one demon in charge. She mustered up the courage to let out a panic and told the demon that Mochi was looking for him, and the demon left. Then the devil saw Lu Xiaosong and Zhenyun in the cage. What are you doing here, devil? You are the devil, go away. Lu Xiaosong trembled and looked at her in fear. Zhenyun also said fearfully. Moji, do you want to kill us? The little girl felt extremely painful in her heart. She opened the door and said. Come with me quickly. I'll take you away. If it's too late, it'll be too late. Shortly after, she took Lu Xiaosong and the two of them out of the valley. Are you really letting us go? Lu Xiaosong was a little in disbelief. Mog nodded, with tears in her eyes, and said. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, I'm sorry. Zhenyun pulled Lu Xiaosong and ran away quickly. Zhenyun, Lu Xiaosong. The devil looked at their backs and said. Are we still friends? There was no reply, and their figures drifted away. Lord Mog, they are destined to be enemies and cannot be friends. Behind the little girl, a deep voice sounded. The little girl turned around and saw Mochi. She thought of her three dead friends, and couldn't help but burst into tears, saying. Mochi, I hate you, I will hate you forever and ever. 3. Defeat all enemies. Kill. Fight with the humans. The mountains and rivers are full of shouts of killing. 4 years have passed, and the war between humans and demons has broken out again. Corpses littered the fields and blood flowed into the sky. The Jiji tribe was originally on the edge of the demon clan and was the first to be affected. Years ago, I didn't destroy your group. Today, you will all die. The strong human race Yang Yuanji came to kill again, and his bows and arrows were even more terrifying. Wherever he went, the Beiji tribe collapsed and all the people died. Even the cemetery was exploded by an arrow. Fight them. The Beiji tribe resisted with all their strength. Among them, there was a little girl. Although she was only 9 years old, she showed terrifying strength. She was calm and stable, killing powerful human beings one after another. This little girl is what your tribe calls a demon? Haha, I want her to be my demon slave. Yang Yuanji sneered, he was too arrowy, he shot it with one arrow. Protect Master Moshiu. Suddenly, more than a dozen strong demons stood in front of the demon, but they were all shot away. Take Lord Moxie and leave. The tribe king Mochi soared into the sky. He faced the Yang Yuan machine with only one arm left. He roared to the sky and charged forward to kill. Yang Yuanji shot out an arrow, hitting Mochi in the chest, but Mochi seemed to have gone crazy and continued to rush forward with all his life. Take Moji away, take her away. Mochi roared angrily, but in the end he did not rush to the Yang Yuan machine and was shot down 100 steps away. Mochi fell to the ground, covered in blood. King. The demons gathered around and looked at Mochi, they were all very sad. Makai. Mochi also came over. She stretched out her hand to block the blood hole on Mochi's body, but she couldn't stop it at all. Lord Moji, I am going to die, you must live, you are the hope of the demon clan will revitalize, the demon clan will revitalize. Mochi looked at Moji, with tears in his eyes, and said, "I'm sorry, Lord Moji, I once killed your friend, don't hate me, don't." He closed his eyes. Tears fell from Mo11's big eyes. "I have no friends, I don't have any friends anymore." She spoke and reached out to help Mo-chi close his eyes. Then, she stood up and looked at the Yang Yuan machine in the sky. For the first time, an unprecedented ferocity appeared on her young face. "I am a demon, I shoulder the dream of revitalizing the demon race, and I want to become your human race's nightmare. I am going to kill you." The fall of Yanji Yuanji, the strong human race, shocked everyone. 4. Seeing others. The fall of the Yang Yuan machine is just a starting point. From that day on the land of demons, a terrifying myth was rising. 3 years have passed, and the name of Demon Fierce has spread throughout the demon continent. She killed 17 geniuses in one battle and was hunted down by 9 powerful elders. However, in the end, all 9 powerful men fell, which made her famous. She once gave orders to the top 3 tribes of the demon clan to surrender within 3 days. However, the 3 major tribes refused to obey. On the 4th day, the 3 major tribes were wiped out from the land of the demon clan. When the human race came, the evil demon defeated the 39 masters of the human race in one battle, killed the 13 famous sons of the stars of the human race, personally led an army of 100,000, and trampled through 300 human cities, killing everyone in the world with fear. The name of the devil is unknown to everyone. Although Demon Fierce has not yet become the supreme, he is already revered as Demon Lord within the demon clan. Countless powerful demon clans crowned her. On the day of her coronation, an invitation came from the human race. It's an invitation to a wedding banquet. Lu Xiaosong and Zheng Yun are getting married. They did not forget their former friends and sent invitations specially. On that day, Mog gave up the glory of being crowned. She left the land of the demons alone and entered the strongest city of mankind, Tianjiang continent. Even though many years have passed, Mog is still only about 9 years old due to her undefeated demonic body. She walked into this big city without attracting any attention. She dressed up as a little beggar and entered the wedding banquet. She saw the groom and the bride, childhood playmates, getting married. That day, a long-lost smile appeared on her face. A pure smile. After the worship service, she waited outside the bridal chamber. When the groom was surrounded by people and entered the bridal chamber, she walked to the side and said, "Lu Xiaosong, I wish you all the best." Lu Xiaosong was already a young man at that time. When he saw Mog, who was about 9 years old, he suddenly said, "I thought you wouldn't come." The devil said, "We are friends." However, as soon as the words fell, endless attacks were already coming. That battle was extremely brutal. The most powerful men of the human race have set up dragnets to hunt evil spirits. Mo Xiu almost died, but she killed everyone in all directions, killing powerful enemies one after another. If Yang Daomei, a strong member of the Yang family who had participated in the hunt, had not been knocked unconscious by Manzun, another strong member of the human race, she might not have found a way out. After killing many powerful enemies, she left Tianjiang continent. Since then, no one knows where the devil has gone. Some people say that the evil spirit is dead. Some people say that the evil spirit went on the road during the war and broke through the last knot in his heart. No one knew that at that time, Mog just found a forest at random. The ordinary forest was full of fun in her eyes. She fished in the stream, dug out honey, caught loaches, and raised many little ones. Goldfish. Until one day, she found an injured deer. She chased the deer and finally caught it, but she didn't know how to heal the injury. If she used the magic source to save the deer would also turn into a magic deer. She was guarding the deer and was in trouble. "Do you want to save it?" At this time, a warm voice suddenly came. Mog raised her eyes and saw a young man slowly walking towards her. He walked out of the sunset, his body covered with light. Good night. This extra story was originally written about the story of Xuanhuan's encounter with her past life when the 10 evil spirits were looking for the evil corpse of the previous life. It was posted on the public account at the time, and some readers have already read it. I'm too lazy to post the extra story I wrote before today, and then I'll continue writing something else tomorrow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1260. 1. Lonely Boy. In a mountain valley, under the scorching sun, a group of 13 or 14-year-old boys were practicing boxing vigorously. You need to have enough energy, your steps need to be steady, your elbows need to be strong, and your punches need to be accurate. In front of the square formation formed by the teenagers, a middle-aged man wearing wolf-skin clothes was pointing loudly and said, "You are the blood guards who protect the tribe. If your cultivation is insufficient and your combat power is not strong, not only you will die, but your parents, your wives, and children will also die. This set of demonic ox fist is the best way to strengthen your muscles and bones. You must study hard and practice hard, and there is no room for slacking off." The middle-aged man's eyes swept over each boy. Those boys were already dripping with sweat, but at this moment they were gritting their teeth and persisting. Being able to become a tribal blood guard is the greatest pride and honor. The middle-aged man was slightly satisfied and said, "Practice 10 more times. Based on your foundation, you will need to practice hard for a month to get the initial results of Demon Cow Fist." After finishing speaking, he turned around and looked at a group of children not far away who were watching, and shouted, "This is not the place you should be, get out." The middle-aged man had experienced hundreds of battles and was extremely majestic. As soon as this voice came out, most of the children dispersed. However, one of them still stood in place. He looked about 12 or 13 years old. His body was frail and skinny. He couldn't even wear an animal skin suit, so he wore tree bark clothes. He looked at the middle-aged man and seemed to have used a lot of strength to stay still. The middle-aged man walked over and said, "Why don't you leave?" The young man pointed at the group of children practicing martial arts and said, I want to learn with them." The middle-aged man said, "Practice." The young man nodded heavily and said, "Yes." The middle-aged man suddenly put his hand on the young man's shoulder. At this moment, a burst of spiritual power suddenly entered the young man's body from the big man's hand. The young man suddenly showed a look of pain on his face and fell directly to the ground. His face was covered in sweat, and his thin face became extremely pale. "You cannot." The middle-aged man just spoke calmly and said, "You have no spiritual bones and cannot bear the spiritual energy. When the spiritual energy enters your body, it is like a needle pricking you. You will die in less than 3 days. Go back. Being an ordinary person is no more embarrassing than being a blood guard. Growing grain for the tribe and fighting to the death for the tribe are equally honorable." After saying that, the middle-aged man turned around with his hands behind his back and was about to leave. Ordinary bones can't be cultivated. However, the young man clenched his fists, looked at the back of the middle-aged man, and said, "Try again. I will definitely not fall down." His eyes were filled with determination. The middle-aged man turned his head, looked at the young man, and said, "You really want to try?" The young man nodded vigorously. "Can you read?" the middle-aged man asked. The young man said, "I know, I studied with Grandpa." There was a look of understanding in the eyes of the middle-aged man. There was only one so-called Grandpa in the tribe. He was a scholar, respected by everyone, and those who lived with him, were all orphans in the tribe. This mental method can guide qi into the body, you can try it as you like. He directly took out a piece of animal skin, handed it to the young man, then turned and left, never looking at the young man again. He has seen many unwilling people, but without roots, they can only be ordinary. That mental method is not a secret in the wilderness, it is the most basic method of introducing qi into the body. However, even if it is the most basic and simple, ordinary people would not dare to try it at all. For those who have no bones, it is a kind of torture for spiritual energy to enter the body, and the pain will directly cause them to faint. He was not going to convince a stubborn young man with his words. He likes to use facts. The young man held the animal skin in his hand, his eyes showing an unprecedented determination. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. The middle-aged man is still training these future blood guards. His progress is getting faster and faster. Quick, quick, quick. Your progress is too slow. When the blood crow department comes, you won't be able to fight at all. You need to be stronger. These teenagers have been trained by him so much that they have almost no time to rest. During this period, the leader of the tribe came to inspect once. At that time, the tribal leader's face was full of worry. A war seems to have quietly arrived. However, the number of blood guards who can fight for the tribe is limited. Too weak, if it doesn't work, give them bone-breaking grass. Another middle-aged man wearing leather armor stayed behind. He carried a huge sword on his back and had a centipede-like scar on his neck. He spoke calmly. The middle-aged man in charge of training the blood guards suddenly looked at him and said, "Broken bone grass can temper their bones, allowing them to advance from the blood training realm to the bone tempering realm. However, the mortality rate is too high. Even if they are lucky enough to survive, their future will be ruined. Training blood, tempering bones, unblocking meridians, internal fire, and heavenly spirit. This is the realm of cultivation. Even the leader of the tribe is only a strong person in the Tongmei realm, while the masters in the inner fire stage are all the overlords of one party. In the realm of heavenly spirit, he is the king in the entire wilderness. And these future blood guards are all just in the blood training realm. The bone tempering realm is considered the backbone of combat power. If these young men go to the battlefield, they will die very quickly. If you want to quickly improve their strength, you can only use bone tempering grass to temper their bones in a short time. However, the side effects are very obvious, and the mortality rate is extremely high. Moreover, bones tempered with bone tempering grass no longer have the potential to evolve in the future, and can only stop here in their lifetime. If they can't go to the battlefield, the entire tribe may have no future. The middle-aged man in leather armor just sighed. The middle-aged man was silent. Silent. Suddenly, he sensed something and suddenly turned his head. Under the setting sun, he saw a young man. The young man was weak, but he was very steady as he walked step by step. His figure was stretched very long by the sunset. You still haven't given up. The middle-aged man spoke, but before he finished speaking, he had already noticed something and said in shock. Bone tempering realm. When he looked at this young man, his pupils shrank. A month ago, this young man was not even a blood practitioner, but a month later, he became a bone tempering level expert? How can this be? A fantasy. Tempering bones. The young man was a little confused, but his confused expression flashed away. He gritted his teeth, looked at the middle-aged man, and said, "Please try again." He straightened his body and said, "This time, I will definitely not fall again." The middle-aged man walked up to him, stretched out his hand and put it on his shoulder. However, the young man never felt the severe pain. He raised his eyes and looked at the big man suspiciously. "May I have your name?" The middle-aged man also looked at him, and there seemed to be a different look in his eyes. The young man said. Grandpa calls me, the lonely one. The middle-aged man was a little confused, what kind of name is this? However, he didn't care much and said. Did you use broken bone grass? The lonely man nodded and said. Does this count as cheating? There was some concern on his face. However, the middle-aged man suddenly smiled and said. Calculate. The lonely boy's face became tense. But you are the only one in the entire tribe who can do this kind of evil, so I allow you, to become a blood guard. The middle-aged man spoke. Hearing this, excitement suddenly appeared on the young man's face. Join the ranks and practice the demon ox fist with them. The middle-aged man patted his shoulder. The young man immediately ran into the blood guards team. His figure is like a gust of wind. Broken bone grass actually made a person with ordinary bones reach the bone tempering level. Next to the middle-aged man, a man wearing leather armor and carrying a knife had a look of surprise on his face. This kind of experiment has not been done before. However, ordinary people would die after taking broken bone grass. Even for people who have reached the realm of blood training, if they take it, their survival rate is only 1/5. This young man named Lonely is simply a miracle. Go find Grandpa, I'm curious, how on earth this was done. The middle-aged man spoke and said, if it's possible, maybe our tribe can be saved. If others can do the same, then more warriors will be born in the tribe. Soon, they arrived in front of a stone house. An old man was making medicine. He has a stooped figure and gray beard and hair. War stone, crazy sword, I've met Grandpa. The middle-aged man and the middle-aged man with the knife spoke. The old man raised his eyes, looked at the war stone and the crazy sword, and was confused for a moment, but then he sighed and said. Come for the lonely one. The middle-aged Han warrior nodded and said. 1 month, it only took 1 month for his bones to reach the bone tempering level and be able to carry spiritual energy. The old man said. Yeah, a month is so long. He suddenly turned around and led the two of them into a dark secret room. In the secret room, there were many bottles and jars with bloody runes carved on them. As if sensing a stranger coming in, the bottles and jars shook violently, as if a beast was behind them, or a resentful ghost was howling. Even though the battle stone and the crazy sword have been in battle for a long time, they still can't help but shudder at this moment. In front of the dark secret room, 2 logs were tied into a cross, with a bloody rope attached to the cross. I know why you came. The old man spoke slowly, pointed to the cross in front of him and said. He was tied here for a month, and every hour he would take a piece of broken bone grass. Hearing this, both Warstone and Crazy Sword's expressions changed drastically. Every hour, take a piece of bone-breaking grass. This is too amazing. Even if you are in the blood training realm, you can only take 1 strain at most in your lifetime. And how much should that boy eat in this month? Nearly 1,000 plants. How did he survive? Xuanhuan spoke in a daze. The old man pointed to the bottles and jars next to him and said. These powerful souls can die on your behalf. Xuanhuan glanced at the bottles and jars around him and was even more frightened. It is a kind of evil magic that allows powerful souls to enter oneself. If one can subdue those ghosts, it is equivalent to having a second life. But the price is very high. Once the powerful soul enters the body of an ordinary person, the original soul will be eaten. It's like being snatched away. Even if they survive, they often go crazy. No one in the entire tribe dared to try it. He let the evil spirits enter his body, and then he swallowed those evil spirits and died in his place. The old man showed a complicated smile and said. He successfully tempered his bones and swallowed 781 ghosts alive. At this moment, the whole room was as cold as death. Xuanhuan and Kuangdao were both stunned. He wasn't taken away. Crazy Knife murmured. The old man shook his head and said, "No. His will is stronger than anyone I have ever seen, and his soul makes even ghosts afraid. He is an orphan, the loneliest child I have ever seen, so he is called the orphan." Lonely. Xuanhuan felt an unprecedented palpitation and said, "Where is he from?" The old man said, "There is nothing special about a child picked up by the roadside. There is no need to be afraid or suspicious. He is 12 years old and the soul in his body is only 12 years old. It is not an evil spirit inhabiting his body." His voice sounded like he was talking in his sleep, and he said, "I don't know what he went through before he was on the side of the road. He was 6 years old at the time." 6 years old. 2. Never go crazy again. The solitary man began to practice the magic cow boxing. After returning to the training ground, Xuanhuan began to pay special attention to the solitary person. This young man left such a deep impression on him. He suddenly discovered something, walked to the lonely man, and said, "Why is my body so bloated? Did I practice wrongly?" The weak body of the solitary man actually became extremely strong at this moment, even a little fat. It's a lot like practicing Qigong and going crazy. However, when he tore open the solitary man's bark clothes and saw the scene under the clothes, he couldn't help but be stunned. The lonely man's thin arms, waist, back, legs, were all tied with hemp ropes and covered with stones. "He's putting weight on himself." Xuanhuan suddenly slapped the stone, and all the stones on the young man's body were scattered on the ground. "Follow me." He spoke and turned around. The lonely man followed in silence. Under the waterfall. A huge waterfall crashes down from the cliff on the top of the mountain. "Do you know how I became the second master of the tribe?" Xuanhuan opened his mouth, pointed to the waterfall in front, and said, "Practice boxing in the waterfall. Your boxing is far better than usual. But it's hard." The young man had already walked over. His figure disappeared into the waterfall. Then he was quickly hit by the waterfall and fell into the pool. He continued. "The external situation of the tribe is becoming more and more urgent. The tribe where the solitary man belongs is called Xuanhuan tribe, and there are 3 tribes around it, the Blood Crow tribe, the Iron Tree tribe, and the Fire Grass tribe. However, the Iron Tree tribe and the Fire Grass tribe had been conquered by the Blood Crow tribe in just 1 month. Messengers sent out every day returned with all kinds of news. In the meeting hall of Xuanhuan's tribe, the leaders were quarreling. We must not surrender to the Blood Crow tribe. That old crow in the Blood Crow tribe specializes in devouring children and virgins. By then, our entire tribe will be reduced to blood food in their captivity, no different from livestock. The Iron Tree tribe did not surrender, but everyone died and the entire tribe turned into a scorched earth. The Blood Crow of the Blood Crow tribe belongs to the ancient clan. We have no choice. Since the ancient clan has focused its attention on our barren land, not only us, but everyone, can only surrender. Some are indignant, some are fearful. In this era, the human race is too weak. Those who dominate the world are those ancient races that are older than the human race. They possess powerful supernatural powers and terrifying bloodlines. Now, the arrival of an ancient blood crow is enough to cleanse the entire wilderness with blood." The tribal leader was silent for a long time, then looked at Grandpa and said, "Grandpa, is there a way to kill that blood crow?" Grandpa is the most knowledgeable person in the tribe. He has been out of the wilderness and even to prosperous countries. Grandpa shook his head and said, "That blood crow is at least at the Tongmei level, and it may even be internal fire. It can't be killed." Everyone also fell silent. They all looked towards the tribal leader, waiting for a decision. The tribal leader finally stood up, and after a long time, he said, "Crazy Blade, you are responsible for selecting some children and taking them away overnight. The remaining people, Fight to the death. The calm face of the tribal leader showed an unprecedented determination. That night, under the moonlight, the waterfall is extremely conspicuous at night, and the sound of the water is deafening. Grandpa and Xuanhuan walked to the waterfall. Looking at the young man who was concentrating on practicing boxing in the waterfall, Grandpa suddenly spoke and said, "His energy and blood were at full strength 10 days ago, and his bones were indestructible. Why didn't you give him the secret to unblocking his meridians? The young man in the waterfall has extremely strong blood and has reached its peak, and his bones have become indestructible. The next step is to unblock the meridians. Grandpa, you know, he has no future." Xuanhuan shook his head and said, "Using bone-breaking grass to reach the bone-tempering realm will only stop here in life. It is useless to give him the technique to open the meridians." Grandpa said coldly, "Before this, didn't you also think that it was impossible for an ordinary person to practice cultivation? But, he did it?" Xuanhuan was silent. Grandpa was also thinking. Suddenly, he said, "Are you afraid?" Xuanhuan did not hide it, nodded and said, "I do have a fear of him." Grandpa was confused. "Fear?" Xuanhuan nodded and said. His eyes were too determined as a lone wolf I once killed. I killed all the beasts. At that time, all the wolves were so frightened by my blood that they dared not move, but that lone wolf kept charging. Because that lone wolf has deep hatred and tremendous anger. Only hatred and anger can make a wolf indestructible. So are people." Grandpa said. "Being born here and being invincible is the greatest luck, isn't it?" Xuanhuan shook his head and said, "Because hatred and anger are invincible, they will bring disaster to this world. Only the strength gained through protecting, will make this world a better place. Our tribe's method of unblocking the meridians, was learned from the bloodthirsty apes. If you are not careful, if you fail to unblock the meridians, you will go crazy. Full of hatred and anger, coupled with bloodthirsty skills." Xuanhuan said with certainty. "He's going to go crazy." Grandpa said. "But this is the only option. The Tisha tribe's meridian opening method is safe, but the Tisha tribe has been destroyed, and it is even more impossible to obtain the technique. And how do you know that hatred and anger will definitely drive him crazy?" Xuanhuan said. "It's meaningless to say all this. I've already told Guangdao to take him away. He is very talented. As long as he doesn't die, he will eventually shine." He stepped forward and called the young man. The lone man emerged from the waterfall, his movements steady and powerful. However, in just a short period of time, the young man's power was almost as strong as Xuanhuan's. "Grandpa, Uncle Jean, why are you here?" the solitary man asked doubtfully. Xuanhuan said, "Kid, you have to leave. Come with me, Uncle Crazy Knife is waiting for you." The lonely man raised his eyebrows and said, "Where to go? Why did you leave?" Xuanhuan did not say it clearly, but said, "Task." The lonely man was silent for a moment, and suddenly turned back towards the waterfall. "I'm not leaving." The solitary man's voice was calm and firm, and his words contained a persistence beyond that of a 12-year-old boy. "I already have power, I will not run away, I will fight, side by side with you." He jumped into the waterfall and smashed his fists against the waterfall wildly, as if he was going backwards towards destiny. His roars and shouts echoed in the mountains. "I don't want to watch anyone die anymore, I don't want to be a coward anymore, I want to fight." Under the moonlight, Xuanhuan suddenly trembled. He suddenly discovered that under the moonlight, in the waterfall, there seemed to be a phantom reflected around the young man, like a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood piling up. The kind of blood and cruelty made even him, who had been killed for a long time, feel frightened. "What is his origin?" Xuanhuan asked again. Grandpa said. A boy. Just a lonely boy. A desolate smile appeared on his old face and he said. Give him the technique. If he was going to be crazy, he would have already gone crazy, but his soul was just filled with loneliness. Do you know what this means? It means that nothing in this world can make him lose his mind. He knows what he wants better than anyone, and he knows that no one can help him along the way. He was ready to go alone. He is alone. Xuanhuan murmured subconsciously. This is too heavy. But he still took out the exercise book. A technique that will drive people crazy. The side story of the Quiet One will probably be a little long, so I'll finish it in 2 or 3 days. Good night. Fantasy, I'm really not an unparalleled expert. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 1261. The Blood Crow envoy has arrived. Outside Yunhangview, a horse galloped over. A messenger wearing animal skin clothes arrived quickly. He held a flag with a blood raven pattern and held it outside Mayun's head. Lord Blood Crow has ordered that Yunhang's tribe surrender immediately and surrender 100 boys and girls. Otherwise, great disaster will happen. The messenger spoke coldly. However, what responded to the messenger was an arrow. How dare you? The messenger was horrified, but before he could react, he was shot down from his horse. That day, there was a huge earthquake in this vast wilderness. Yunhangbu actually dared to openly shoot Lord Blood Crow's envoy. That day, the people from the Fire and Grass Department arrived first. Once one of the 4 major tribes, now it has become the pioneer of the Blood Crow tribe. The leader of the Fire Grass tribe, Huo Dingtian, rode a fire-breathing bull and arrived outside the Yunhang tribe. Hungmori, your end has come. Huo Chongtian spoke coldly and launched a charge. This was a bloody battle. Within Yunhang's tribe, the tribal leader Hangsen rode out and led the tribe's blood guards to fight against the Huo Cao tribe they had opened. Hungmori held a spear and fought against Huo Dingtian. The 2 powerful men in the Tongmei realm were beaten to pieces. On the other side, Xuanhuan led the tribal blood guards, rushing left and right, killing fiercely. This battle lasted until dusk. Blood stained the mountains outside Yunhan's tribe. The Huoko tribe was finally defeated, leaving a dense mass of corpses on the mountains. The tribal leader was so angry that he was nailed to the cliff by Hangsen's spear. However, Yunhangbu also suffered heavy losses. Those who fought in this battle were all old blood guards, all elites of the tribe. Now, there are only a few dozen people left, all with injuries. Hangmari's body was bleeding, and one of Xuanhuan's arms was almost chopped off. However, on the cliff covered with corpses, a group of men and horses with flags lined with banners appeared one after another. Blood ravens. In the military formation, there was also a 4-wheeled carriage. There seemed to be a huge black shadow in the carriage, it looked like a crow. Bloody flags are scattered all over the mountains and forests. The Blood Crow Department, and the Blood Crow. Xuanhuan spoke with a trace of sadness in his eyes. We can't stop it. Hungmori opened his mouth and said. You lead the reserve battalion and protect the village. The rest of the veterans, follow me and charge. Hangmari's usually calm eyes were filled with a kind of decisive madness. He raised the spear in his hand and said. Rush ahead. He rode his horse, leading the remaining dozens of veterans, and rushed towards the intact military formation of the Blood Ravens. This is tantamount to committing suicide. Leader. Xuanhuan raised the weapon in his hand and shouted. From today on, you are the leader of Yunhan tribe. Hungmori roared angrily. Without any hesitation, he rode his horse and charged towards the military formation. Dozens of remaining blood guards around him also followed closely. The battle begins again on the mountains. Dozens of remaining blood guards attacked the Blood Crow army's formation. In the brutal fighting, the blood guards fell one after another. Prepare to impact. And behind, Xuanhuan roared. Behind him were a group of teenagers. The 150 reserve blood guards had different expressions on their young faces when they saw the bloody battle in front of them. There is fear, confusion, and anger. Waiting for Hungmori and others to die, it is up to these young men who have not yet experienced the fight. But, right now, on that mountain ridge, sudden changes occurred. I saw that all the blood guards around Hungmori were dead, but he finally rushed to the carriage. After all, he is a strong man in the realm of Tongmei. In front of the carriage, Xuanhuan, the leader of the Blood Crow tribe, raised the weapon in his hand indifferently. At this moment, Hungmori was at the end of his strength. Kill! Hungmori suddenly let out a shrill scream, and his body suddenly split open. In his body, 5 terrifying ghosts suddenly jumped out. No! Xuanhuan was shocked. His eyes were filled with fear, but one of the fierce ghosts had already pounced on him. He immediately fell from his horse and struggled on the ground, wailing. But the other 4 rushed towards the carriage. In the carriage, is the blood crow from the ancient tribe. This is Yakamura's plan. From the beginning, he was determined to die. Leader. Behind him, Zhanshi's eyes were red. He saw the Hangsan split with his own eyes, and tears rolled down his eyes. He understands. Hungmori stuffed 5 fierce ghosts into his body alive. With amazing perseverance, he has remained awake until now. Those 5 fierce ghosts are very likely to become the key to changing the situation of the battle. The blood forest has been entangled by the evil ghosts. Even the strong ones at the Tongmei level had very weak soul power before reaching the heavenly spirit realm and could not withstand the erosion of the evil ghosts at all. The remaining 4 ghosts rushed towards the blood crow. At this moment, the carriage suddenly exploded. A giant black crow spread its wings. There is actually a pale golden feather on its wings. The pale golden feathers glowed, and the 4 ghosts were directly annihilated. The light of the feather also dimmed. No. It's over. Can't even the evil ghost kill the blood crow? Yun Hengbu and everyone looked miserable. Grandpa also appeared in front of the tribe, and he could only sigh. On the mountain ridge, the blood crow had stretched out its claws, grabbed Hangsan's head, and smashed it into pieces. Damn it! Blood crow made a low voice and said. A waste of the power of my divine feather, you will all die. It flapped its wings in an astonishing way and ordered, kill. The army of the Blood Crow tribe is about to be dispatched. The sound of killing shook the sky. But, that is at this moment. On the mountain ridge, I suddenly remembered the cries of countless ghosts. Suddenly, black air filled the air, and countless fierce ghosts appeared. There are thousands of evil ghosts appearing at this moment. Thousands of fierce ghosts rushed directly towards the blood crow. What? A look of horror suddenly flashed across Blood Crow's eyes. The pale golden feathers on its wings were trying their best to shine, but there were so many ghosts at the moment that they directly suppressed the light emanating from it. A series of resentful ghosts rushed directly into its body. Ah! The shrill screams instantly shook the forest. What happened? Lord Blood Crow. The Blood Crow troops were all shocked, and they hurriedly reined in their horses. It's him. A general of the Blood Crow tribe, guarding a spear, pointed at a blood guard of the Yunhong tribe. That was one of the last blood guards to attack with Hungmori. He still had a spear stuck in his body and was obviously dead. However, at this moment, he stood up, and the fierce ghosts were actually released from the palm of his hand. His palms were bleeding. When he turned around, the general of the Blood Crow tribe was shocked, because this blood guard was actually a young man. No. How did he do it? There are so many evil ghosts stored in his body. We were deceived. He has been waiting. It will take time to release so many evil ghosts. Hungmori was actually just fainting to cover him. Everyone in the Blood Crow department understood instantly. Kill him, kill him. The Blood Crow general spoke in a trembling voice, with a hint of fear in his eyes. The young man's stern face and seemingly indifferent gaze made him feel deep fear. The soldiers of the Blood Crow division rushed towards the young man. "That boy is standing on the top of the mountain." At this moment, he suddenly burst out with unprecedented power, which was the cultivation level of a Tongmei level master. When the last ray of sunset sets, the young man was the only one left on the mountain. His body was covered with wounds. It was a brutal fight. But in the end, he cut off Blood Crow's head. He walked down the mountain ridge, and everyone in Yunhong's tribe stared at him with unprecedented awe in their eyes. The solitary one. The roaring sound shook the mountain. He succeeded. He really didn't go crazy, he practiced the skills of the bloodthirsty apes. The news of Blood Crow's death spread throughout the wilderness in an instant. The other tribes were all shocked. The reputation of the lonely man appeared in front of the world for the first time. Yunhangbu had unprecedented land and resources. The Iron Tree tribe, the Fire Grass tribe, and the Blood Crow tribe were all occupied by the Yunhong tribe. Under the sunset, the lonely man sat under the waterfall, listening to the sound of the waterfall and flipping through half of the book in his hand. "Leader." Zhan Shi appeared behind him, with a touch of respect in his eyes, and said, "The resources of all major tribes have been plundered." The lonely man was silent for a moment and said, "Didn't you find the inner fire realm technique?" Zhan Shi shook his head. "In the inner fire realm, they are the top masters in the entire wilderness. It is impossible for ordinary tribes to have them. Grandpa has already gone to the Thunder Department. There was a master of the inner fire realm in the Thunder Department, who mastered the Thunderbird art. Maybe he can bring it back." Zhan Shi said, "The Thunder tribe is also the largest tribe in the northern wilderness territory. It was once an enemy of the ancient tribe. They will form an alliance with us." Relying on Yunhangbu, he was lucky enough to kill Blood Crow, but he could not be the opponent of the ancient tribe. Joining forces with the Thunder Department is the best result. Grandpa is back. At this moment, a voice also sounded. Zhan Shi and Gu Zhe both walked towards the outside of the tribe. Outside the tribe, on a horse, Grandpa finally returns. 3 days later, the Thunder Department will come to Yunhong Department to form an alliance with us. When the time comes, they will bring the Thunderbird technique. Grandpa's eyes were filled with excitement. "What's the price?" The lonely man asked questions. Grandpa said, "The leader of the Thunder Division, he had a problem a few years ago when he accommodated a fierce ghost. Now he is almost half crazy. He hopes you can save him." With a touch of apology on his old face, he said, "This is your secret, I revealed it." The lonely man said softly, "It should be." 3 days later, the people from the Thunder Department arrived as expected. They are very powerful, and there are 5 of them leading the Meridians. The number of soldiers they brought was 800, and they were extremely powerful. People from other tribes also came to witness this most important alliance. "Grandpa, go to the quarrying mountain right away and help me bring back some copper stones. I need them. Take a few orphans you like and help you carry them. I want more." Seeing the people from the Thunder Department, the lonely man suddenly spoke. Grandpa was confused, but he still took the children and left. The blood sacrifice ceremony begins. The leader of the Thunder tribe, Lei Tian, the son of Lei Ming, boarded the blood-killing platform with the solitary man. Lei Ming was wearing a noble mink fur, which was in sharp contrast to the solitary man, but he kept smiling. Walking up to the blood-sucking platform, he took out a dagger and wiped it on his palm. The blood dripped in the water, and then he handed the dagger to the solitary man. The lonely man took the dagger, but suddenly stabbed Lei Tian fiercely. Lei Tian was caught off guard and was stabbed directly into his stomach with a dagger. Then, the solitary man strangled Lei Tian's neck and said ferociously, Tell your men to put down their weapons and get out. Lei Tian said in horror. What are you doing? I'll form an alliance with you. An alliance? Do you really think I can't smell blood, Crow? The solitary man roared. Among the crowd watching the ceremony, 2 masters from the Thunder Division suddenly walked out. Their clothes tore apart, revealing their half-feathered, half-human bodies. Lonely, I didn't expect you to be quite clever. One of them said coldly. Killing my Blood Crow clan members is disrespectful and should be punished. Their cultivation was completely released. Master of Inner Fire Realm. Everyone in the field was panicked. The alliance of the Thunder Department, the people here are evil, they have already been bribed by the Blood Crow. Let my people leave, I'll stay. The lonely man, staring at the 2 Blood Crows, spoke in a deep voice, otherwise, he will die. Lei Tian was also frightened and said, 2 adults, the rest are irrelevant, let them go. However, Blood Crow just said coldly. If the person who kills my Blood Crow clan doesn't kill everyone related to him, how can he show the power of our Blood Crow clan? After saying that, he directly grabbed 2 people from Yunhangbu and suddenly crushed their heads. You can kill this ant from the Thunder Department if you want. Today, your Yunhang Department, not a single ant will survive. The 2 Blood Crows started to kill. No. Anger surged from Lone's eyes, and he broke Lei Tian's neck, then pounced on the 2 Blood Crows. However, one of the Blood Crows vibrated its wings and knocked him away. Even though he was in the Tongmei realm, he was no match for Blood Crow. Stop. The lonely man watched his clan members being slaughtered, and he still wanted to attack. But at this moment, he was violently grabbed. He turned around and saw that his grandfather had returned at some unknown time. I knew you must have discovered something, so you wanted me to escape first. Aga opened his mouth and said. You go, you are the one who should go. He straightened up his old body and walked to the lonely man without looking back, saying. Leave the wilderness and go to the city of 10,000 clans. There, you can have the opportunity to learn higher-level cultivation methods from the major ancient tribes, and have the chance to take revenge. I have traveled around the world, learned from all races, and opened a way for mankind, but, I failed. There was a strong unwillingness in Grandpa's voice, and he said. You go, remember, from today on, your life not only belongs to you, but also to the human race, open a way for the human race. Remember, you are the Prince of Humanity City, and you carry the hope of the human race. After saying that, his old body suddenly burst out with brilliant light and rushed towards the 2 Blood Crow masters. The lonely man watched his grandpa rush away. He was silent for only a moment, then suddenly turned around and left. He ran as fast as he could in his life. He heard the roar of Blood Crow, the sound of Zhanshi's tragic death, the wailing of his tribe, and Grandpa's wild laughter. He didn't look back and didn't even shed a single tear. Since 6 years ago, when he walked out of the Humanity City where mountains of corpses and blood piled up, he no longer shed tears. The lone man escaped. 3 months later, an unkempt young man walked out of the wilderness. He passed by the ruined Humanity City and only took a look at the Humanity City from a distance. Humanity City was jointly established by the strongest human race experts in the wilderness. It was once known as the Holy Land of the human race. In Humanity City, the basic form of human cultivation has even been born. But 6 years ago, Humanity City was blood-bathed and became the god of death. An unprecedented sadness suddenly appeared in the young man's eyes. His deep and cold eyes seemed to see a mountain of dead corpses and a sea of blood, as if there were countless unwilling beings. I will return. He murmured, then turned and left. He headed towards the city of 10,000 races. The city of 10,000 tribes, as the name suggests, is the city of 10,000 tribes, where all the most powerful ancient tribes in the world are located. The human race is also there, but, they exist in the form of slaves of all races. 1 month later. In front of a sect, an old man looked at the thin young man in front of him and said, "Do you know what our war sect does?" The thin boy said, "You are the strongest." The old man sneered and said, "Of course we are the strongest. We are the sect most favored by all the ancient clans and have the techniques of all the ancient clans. But, do you know what we do?" The young man said, "Cultivate qualified war beasts for the major ancient tribes." Xuanhuan, the most powerful human sect in the city of 10,000 clan. The name is very domineering, but he is groveling before all races, cultivating their favorite war beasts and war pets for the major ancient races. For this reason, the major ancient tribes would donate some training methods to the war sects in order to select suitable war beasts. You want to be a war beast? The old man looked at the young man. The thin boy nodded. Where did it come from? Great wilderness. The old man took a deep look at the young man. He was able to walk from the wilderness to Wandao city. His perseverance was amazing. Name: Solitary. The old man wrote down Gu's name and said, "From today on, you are a disciple of our Zhan section. Someone will guide you in your cultivation, starting from the most basic gladiatorial combat. As long as you are strong enough, you may one day be selected by the adults of the ancient clan and become their favorite." Silent. Human beings are doing various humble professions in the city of 10,000 races, and becoming the war pets of the ancient races is one of them. Taming war pets and participating in gladiatorial fights is one of the favorite hobbies of the ancient tribe. Every year, the gladiatorial competitions are even more spectacular. After entering the war sect, Gu obtains some basic skills. Because they want to train their war pets to fight, the ancient clan is not stingy with these fighting skills. Gu quickly showed his edge. In the first competition, he alone tore apart 49 battle pets competing on the same stage, becoming the dark horse among the battle pets. In the second 100 dark horse gladiatorial match, he killed 99 others of his kind. In the blink of an eye, 10 years have passed. In the past 10 years, the news that a super powerful war beast had appeared in the war sect spread like wildfire. Many people from the ancient tribe came to the door and wanted to take away this war beast. But they were all rejected. The war beast said that it was only willing to follow the masters of the Chaos clan, the #1 ancient clan today. Originally, it was very dangerous for war beast to dare to refuse the selection of the ancient clan, but his loyalty to the Chaos clan prevented other ancient clan from taking action easily. Attacking a war beast that is loyal to the Chaos clan may cause the Chaos clan to be dissatisfied. In the 13th year, an adult from the Chaos clan finally went to the war sect. This day. Gu, today is your chance. Zhan Qi, the leader of the Zhan sect, was extremely excited. He took out a piece of his mind and handed it to Gu. This is the mental method that the master of the Chaos tribe brought over. He asked you to read it within an hour, and then go see him. If you are really capable, you can become his battle pet. Zhan Qi's words were trembling slightly. Although Xuanhuan has been serving the major ancient clans, there are very few truly powerful clans. What's more, it's the first ancient clan. Gu calmly took this piece of advice from the Chaos clan and read it for a long time. Lord Sect Leader. Half an hour later, he put down his thoughts and suddenly said, "Suppose that one day, you have been taming war beasts for the ancient tribe all your life. Have you ever thought that one day, the human race will be able to tame all major ancient tribes as war beasts?" When Zhan Qi heard this, he was stunned for a moment, but then his expression changed and he said, "Nonsense. Gu, if you want to die, don't drag down our Zhan sect." However, Gu just left silently and went to find the leader of the Chaos tribe. That day, the city of 10,000 races was violently shaken. An unruly genius from the Chaos tribe went to the war sect to select a war beast, but, he was killed by the war beast named Gu. Alone, missing. there was a tsunami in the entire city of 10,000 races. The Chaos Clan, the first ancient tribe, is the ceiling even in the forest of all races. Who dares to disrespect them? Now, the core genius was actually killed by a human war beast. All the major ancient tribes went crazy. The war sect was blood-bathed, and the human race in the city of 10,000 races was massacred. The top leaders of the Chaos Clan were furious, claiming that they wanted all the races to be buried with that genius. And a month later, a young man appeared before the wilderness. He entered Humanity City, a once glorious city that was now in ruins. He stayed in the city for a long time. Then, he walked out of Humanity City and headed to the wilderness. The human race in the wilderness is weak, but strong. Compared to the humans in the city of 10,000 races, the humans in the wilderness are very difficult, but they still have blood. So, the young man is back. Only those who still have blood can face the powerful races. This day is destined to be remembered in history. Good night.